before we even got into the dissertation on the health of his golf game, if you heard Donald Trump without looking at Donald Trump, had you listened to that debate on the radio without actually seeing either of the participants, you would have thought that Donald Trump was in his mid-60s, right? Joe Biden, father time. This is one of the inherent threats of having a president who is in decline and is not up to the job. Bad guys around the world know that the president of the United States is not up to the job, and they take advantage. There's a reason why, and Donald Trump pointed it out during the debate, that he is the only recent United States president who, during his term in office, Russia didn't try to seize a piece of Eastern Europe. That's not a coincidence, because they being the Soviets, they view Donald Trump as a wild card, someone that they have to be concerned about. They can't perfectly predict his moves and might be willing to use force to defend the United States and its allies. They felt the same way about Ronald Reagan. If you go online and do a deep dive into some interviews after the fall of the Soviet Union with Kremlin bureaucrats, they'll say that they really did believe that Reagan was a cowboy that would launch a nuke if he woke up on the wrong side of the bed. That's the only way to keep bad guys in check, when they're afraid of our guys. And, you know, we're not doing anything, of course, we being the United States of America, to persuade these foreign powers otherwise that we're weak and vulnerable. I saw a tweet from Frank Luntz, who I try to avoid Frank Luntz at all costs. Even if the guy's presentation drives me nuts. And I don't know what's going on with his hair these days, but let's leave that aside for a second. But Frank Luntz tweeted an article where some White House aides are talking about how President Biden, they swear to God, Scout's honor, is pretty on his game between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. every day when he has most of his public availabilities. After that time frame or outside of that time frame, or if he's traveling overseas, he's a little sleepy. Sleepy Joe. These are White House aides that are telling mainstream legacy outlets that the president has about a 6-hour window every day. So holiday week bankers hours are what we're getting out of our current commander-in-chief. So, I mean, I guess we're good, provided, for example, the Chinese don't invade Taiwan at 4:05 p.m. If they get it done between 10 and 4, we'll have a president who could respond. Or if, God forbid, as our intelligence services are currently worried about, there's a terror attack in the next week or two in Europe, here's hoping they get it done around lunchtime when Joe Biden doesn't need an infusion to be lucid. Remember that old red phone ad from an election many years ago? It's now our reality. So that's the first little bit of breaking news this evening. I have a second piece of breaking news, which I'm not sure I believe it, even though I have a great deal of respect for the source here, Andrew. It's Bill O'Reilly, formerly of Fox News.
Okay.
Yeah, one of my favorite commentators of all time. Love the Killing series.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you read those books?
A little bit of them. It's
Killing Lincoln was tremendous.
Yeah.
Killing Patton was really cool.
Did he do a Kennedy one?
Yeah, Killing Kennedy.
That's the
That was the flagship.
Yeah.
Great stuff. So I'm a big fan of Bill O'Reilly, but the reason I'm skeptical of this is because I would think that Bill O'Reilly would be the last one to be told this. But let me throw it out there anyway.
Set the stage.
I'm setting the stage for you. Earlier this morning, Bill O'Reilly tweeted, "Looks like President Biden will give up his re-election campaign." BillO'Reilly.com is way ahead of the story. Best analysis here. Stay tuned. And then in a subsequent tweet a little bit later today in the afternoon, he says the decision has been made that President Biden will quit the campaign. 2 reasons. Internal polling says he cannot recover from the debate, and fundraising is drying up. So it's over for Joe, but the White House doesn't know how or when to make the announcement. Now, that's why I gave you that little run up there, Andrew, because even though Bill O'Reilly has a tremendous track record as a serious journalist, we think of him as the the cantankerous Fox News analyst and commentator before he got let go by the station a few years ago. But he's done a lot of serious journalism in his career. Is he the one that the White House is going to confide in? Easily one of the most momentous decisions in modern American political history. It's been a long time since the president's decided not to seek re-election, if that's indeed what happens here. So that's the part that... And also, for what it's worth, Joe Biden raised $33 million after that thing. $33 million, notwithstanding the stories about how Democrat, donors are having loose bowel movements after watching their guy on stage. He's still raking in the cash because they're panicking.
They don't know what else to do.
They're doing what liberals always do, Andrew. They're throwing money at the problem.
Right.
Instead of actually solving the problem, maybe more cash. At least this time it's their cash, not my cash or your money.
Right, not taxpayers. They're just wasting their own.
Us middle-class parents are off the hook for this one, I guess, unless, of course, they succeed in somehow getting this guy reelected. So, two major bits of breaking news, and I told you they intersected because they all relate to what happened on that debate stage. And I know we're all making fun of it. I did too. I have shared and will continue to share my fair share of memes about Joe Biden's pitiful performance. But this is fundamentally scary stuff because I've got kids, and many of you listening, either you have children or even if they're adults, maybe you have grandchildren. This is the guy on the wall right now that's protecting all of us from North Korea, from China, from Russia, from any number of other bad actors around the globe, Islamic fundamentalists. Also the one that's supposed to be holding this country together at a time when our domestic problems are mounting, and it's getting harder and harder as we approach Independence Day to find any semblance of commonality between the respective sides of our political divide. So to give the dead horse one more swift kick here, while I am happy that some are now waking up to the reality of Donald Trump being the only choice in this binary campaign that we're currently presented with, I'm terrified about what could happen over the next few months with this guy in charge. And you just got to hope, as I said, that if something blows up overseas, it happens in the middle of the day when he's awake. If it doesn't, will we respond? Who's going to make the decisions? Do you want Dr. Jill and her education degree making the decisions? I hope not. So that's where we are. And we're going to analyze all of this 6 ways from Sunday this evening on our Sunday night program, in addition to whatever other news we can squeeze into this 3-hour program, which despite the fact that we're on for 3 hours here at 12:10, it often feels insufficient because there's always just too much to talk about. We'll also be joined this evening by two of our mainstays who we turn to when we need to analyze big events. In our second hour of tonight's program, we'll be joined by my good friend, national Republican political consultant, working a ton of House races right now, Tom Szymanski. He'll join us to talk about not only the obvious, what the heck happened last week during that debate, but the national implications, not just for the presidential contest, but also for the congressional races. We too often forget in presidential cycles, the House and the Senate are also on the line. They remain incredibly tight. Up until recently, it looked like Democrats might have an edge in the House, if not the Senate. Did Joe Biden's debate collapse move the needle? We'll talk to Tom about it. And then in our third hour, we'll be joined by the man, the myth, the legend, Dan Cerrucci. He's our PR expert here on the program. He knows how to turn a phrase. We want to talk to him not just about Biden's performance, but how he thought Donald Trump performed. Because, don't forget, even though Joe Biden had a really bad night, this is still a relatively close election, at least as of now. Donald Trump still has to convince some people that sat home in 2020 or didn't vote for him to once again turn to MAGA. Did Donald Trump advance the ball at all? We'll ask Dan his thoughts. Again, 855-839-1210 is the number. Let's take break numero uno to fill those coffee mugs, pop some popcorn. However you enjoy the Matt Rooney Show, we want you to do you, as the Gen Zers say. And we'll be back in just a moment.
Don't miss The Education Show with Dom Giordano every Sunday morning at 5:30. Find out how you can help your child or grandchild succeed. Sponsored by New Hope Academy.
Have you questioned your doctor about symptoms like low energy, digestive issues, brain fog, joint pain, just not feeling right, just something is off, and you're only left settling for unanswered questions, or worse, being told it's just because you're getting older? You don't have to settle for unanswered questions any longer. With Younger Me MD's exclusive VIP membership program, aging doesn't have to make you feel older. And supplements. If you're ready to live the life you deserve, it's time to learn about Younger Me MD's VIP membership program. Call 445-266-4024. 445-266-4024. That's 445-266-4024. And schedule your consultation with Younger Me MD.
The following is a paid commercial message.
Using credit cards could soon become a hassle in Pennsylvania. Some in the legislature are considering a multi-million-dollar giveaway to corporate megastores and may force you to pay for parts of your purchase in cash, while small businesses will have to manage an accounting nightmare. This mandate could also expose information about the private purchases you make. Prevent credit card chaos at guardyourcard.com/Pennsylvania. Paid for by the Electronic Payments Coalition.
The Angie's List you know and trust is now Angie, and we're so much more than just a list. We still connect you with top local pros and show you ratings and reviews, but now we also let you compare upfront prices on hundreds of projects and book a service instantly. We can even handle the rest of your project from start to finish. So remember, Angie's List is now Angie, and we're here to get your job done right. Get started at Angie.com. That's ANGI, or download the app today.
We're the Goo Goo Dolls. We're fortunate that our daughters have what they need to grow and learn. But that isn't the case for nearly 13 million kids in the U.S. that struggle with hunger.
Childhood hunger is a heartbreaking reality that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste and provides it to families and children in need.
You can help kids in need in your community by visiting feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Hey, Clementon. We know your favorite station is Talk Radio 1210 WPHT. WPHT.
All right, we got the Roon cam up. That's the good news. YouTube.com/@1210WPHT. Head over there, participate in the comments. I'm also going to share over on my X page. My handle is Matt Rooney NJ. Like to keep it simple. So that's another way that you can consume the program. Participate in the chat, should you wish, where things are often illuminating, sometimes a little silly, and regularly salty, if we're being honest about it. Susie Loves Jeffy says it quite well. Hi, Matt. Hello, everyone watching, chatting, and lurking. Lots of lurking happens over in the YouTube chat, if we're being honest about it. All right, so let's get back to the task at hand. We gave you the breaking news at the top of tonight's program. Joe Biden's incredible performance, and of course I mean incredible in the negative here, earlier this week on the debate stage, is having an impact already, not just on the presidential race in 2024, not only likely on the congressional side of the ballot, but also overseas. Also overseas, with now a potential terror threat facing American bases in lands across the Atlantic. That's not an accident. They do it when they think that we're weak. And everything that Joe Biden did and said and slurred on that debate stage projected weakness. Did you watch the debate live, Andrew?
Yeah, well, I didn't watch it. We had it on WPHT.
So you listened?
Yeah, because I was on for Sterling's show.
Oh, that's right. You were on Walter Sterling's show, which follows our program every Sunday night at 10 o'clock. I got to give Walter I don't want Walter to yell at me.
No, That's
so
not good.
We're gonna give him a shout out here.
Yeah.
We'll give him another one later in the program.
So it took up about the first hour and 40 minutes of Walter's show, and then Walter jumped back, and then he started his show. So I listened to it. I didn't watch it, but I heard everything, and I think listening to it, it adds a different perspective because I couldn't see, President Biden or President Trump or anything, but so it just yeah.
Well, it kept the slurring in focus to listen to it. Right?
Yeah.
I watched it.
Well,
I watched CNN, which it's the first time in memory that I've watched more than 5 minutes of CNN. So
right, exactly.
That in of itself was an experience.
Yeah, and I think it's more.
But you didn't get the pauses. There were certain points during the debate where Joe Biden would do what we've seen him do on rally stages and at White House press conferences. Well, and he would just but then he would just stare off into space.
Right. When Trump's talking, he's like every single time President Biden was talking, Trump looked at him, or he reacted to what he was saying. Every single time President Trump was talking, Biden just was like a deer in the headlights, looking off into some random place in the auditorium, theater, wherever it was that they were doing it from.
Right. And if you've ever had a family member in an advanced state of dementia, or a family member with Alzheimer's or some serious condition like that, you've seen that look. And if you haven't, maybe you're a fan of The Sopranos. Now, Andrew's never seen The Sopranos, which Rich Zioli teases him for. I will not do that.
Thank you.
Because I'm a kinder person than Rich. I'm a taller, more handsome, less talented, but kinder Rich Zioli. That's how I like to view myself here at the station.
That's a good way to put it.
If you've ever seen The Sopranos, Uncle Junior, the latter few seasons, he's just constantly staring off at space. There's circus music. It's spooky, and it's very disturbing, and it's not what you want to see in a guy who's in charge of one of the two largest nuclear stockpiles on the planet. This is the moment that I think that Donald Trump not only won the debate, but if Joe Biden ultimately leaves the race, this is the moment that drove the nail into the proverbial coffin. This is cut number one. Donald Trump handled this moment artfully. It wasn't just Biden failing. It was this quip at the end. Listen in case you missed it.
What I've done since I've changed what's happened, I've changed it in a way that now you're in a situation where there are 40% fewer people coming across the border illegally. That's better than when he left office. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we can do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump? I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either.
Which is true. It's true. But Trump, Andrew, I don't think was very good in 2020 and 2016 with those subtle moments. Trump is a man who, you don't need me to tell you this, is known for the grand gesture.
Yeah.
Right? But I think maybe it's everything he's dealing with. Having gone through now a third presidential campaign, having everything beyond the kitchen sink thrown at you, facing the rest of your life in prison, the experiences this man has had since he rode down that golden escalator in 2015, few could ever hope to understand what he's been through. So maybe he has achieved, and I never thought I'd say this about Trump, maybe he has achieved a level of zen where he's capable of giving that kind of answer, which not only causes people to chuckle, but also underscores the gravity of the moment. And I remember that's the point where I turned to my wife and I said, you know what, this isn't a win. This is a rout for Donald Trump.
And I think the biggest thing that people need to understand, and like you were talking about, this is the third time Trump has run for president. The things that he's learned and picked up on from the first two times, right? If you look at the debates that he had with Biden back in 2020, or let me start with this. Back in 2016, the reason that Trump was so popular when he was debating other Republican candidates, when he was going up against Ted Cruz and Jeb Bush, and just go up and down the list, Rand Paul was one of the guys in those debates too. He won those debates because he was funny, and he basically, for lack of better words, he bullied those candidates and really took the debates because of how bombastic he was and how over the top he was. In 2020, when he was debating at the time candidate Biden, he tried the same tactic and it didn't work. The reason it didn't work is because you can't really get in the head and get it, kind of bully Joe Biden mentally a little bit, because we know now Joe Biden kind of, may or may not be there all the time.
Well, I also think in 2020, it was a very different environment from 2016, right? Which may sound like an obvious statement, but with COVID,
right,
and the George Floyd riots,
there was no crowd in the audience. There was no audience or anything.
They wanted to be reassured. If you look at the numbers from 2020, part of the reason Donald Trump lost that election, besides all of the ballot harvesting, was because he actually did very poorly with senior citizens, a traditionally solid group for Republican presidential candidates. So this time, to build off of what you're saying, we get to 2024, Donald Trump's very solid, articulate performance in contrast to what Joe Biden did or didn't do on that debate stage this week. I'm going to use the word again, even though I hate when people repeat the same adjective or adverb over and over again. It was devastating. It was absolutely devastating for Joe Biden. Yeah. I don't know whether or not he can recover from it.
And I think the biggest thing, too, it's, again, you're looking at how Trump approached this debate as opposed to the other ones from other previous campaigns and elections. I think he took a more, and like you said, it appealed to voters that he didn't get in 2020. He took a very humble, articulate, thought-out approach to this debate. And going into it, we all knew that if President Biden came out and if he didn't have it together from the beginning, Trump was going to win. But it really just depended on how Trump responded to President Biden fumbling with his words, maybe not having his thoughts together throughout the entire debate. I think Trump handled it beautifully, like you were talking about, and he knew appealing to those voters that he didn't get the last time was something that he had to do. And like you were saying, I think he did that extremely well.
Oh, he absolutely did it. And we don't have to guess at that. We have some evidence that Trump hit. This is cut 8. This is from CBS. This is a Joe Biden 2020 voter out in Scranton, Joe's hometown, he's constantly telling us, back when he remembered where he came from. I take it back. This isn't CBS. This is CNN. And they interviewed this young woman. And even though here on the Matt Rooney Show, we don't like to put people in boxes, one of the groups that Republicans have continued to struggle with, despite making advances in every other category heading into this cycle, the educated white woman. So I think it's worth pointing out that this man-on-the-street interview with a Scranton 2020 Joe Biden voter is a white woman who looks sophisticated and is holding a coffee cup, right? I know you're not supposed to judge a book by its cover, right? But I'm going to go on a limb here and guess that this is a professional woman, and the debate soured her on the incumbent. Listen.
I don't know what 4 more years would look like for somebody who's already at that point.
DeWolf voted for Biden in 2020, but now fears he doesn't have what it takes for the job. Did you have concerns about Biden's capacity, in your words, before last night?
Yeah, but I think last night was worse.
It was worse. I said it at the top of the program, and I'll probably repeat myself throughout the show. You're just going to have to deal with it. It's one thing to know something. It's another thing to have yourself struck in the face by it, to be smacked in the face by it, to not be able to run away from it. I think a lot of leftists and Democrat-leaning independents, this woman sounds like she might be in that category, kind of a Democrat-leaning person in the middle, a squish, we might call them, right? I think they wanted to delude themselves into thinking that voting for Joe Biden is okay. Now they're uncomfortable with it, as they should be. As they should be. If you have kids, if you love children, if you want a future for this planet, for this country, you should be deeply concerned about what you saw on that debate stage. Democrats, of course, are having trouble coming to grips with it. I don't know if what Bill O'Reilly said is accurate, that Joe Biden has made that decision. I doubt it, because Joe Biden and his wife are power-hungry political beasts, right? This is what they've been dreaming of their entire life. They're climbers. And it's been pointed out, and I want to make sure I highlight this, because this is something that's being left out, Andrew, I think, out of a lot of the will he drop or won't he drop analysis. Everybody's focusing on Joe Biden being power hungry and Joe Biden being stubborn and this, that, and the other. What have we been talking about for the past year or two? The Biden crime family. This is not just a presidency. This is a family business. The Bidens, who have no other real world skills, Okay? They're not impressive people. They're also not the brightest people. Criminals usually aren't. They have just enough savvy to figure out how to make money by breaking the rules. But if you could make the kind of money that they make, honestly, then you wouldn't be involved in crime. It's that simple. But this is part of the reason why I think it's going to be tough for them to give this up, because they're going to give up their money stream. Now, there could come a point where they decide to protect the business. We need to gracefully exit the scene, right? But we're not. I don't know if we're at that point yet. And something we're going to get into more as the program progresses, and maybe more when we bring Tom Szymanski on in the second hour. Part of the thing that I think people are missing in this entire analysis of whether Joe Biden's going to leave or stay or what, you got to have somebody to replace him, even if he agrees to go. And poll after poll after poll, and I shared one. You can check it out over on my X profile, Matt Rooney NJ. This is from Data for Progress. Data for Progress is a lefty poll. So when you go to Real Clear Politics, you know, sometimes they put like an R or D next to the poll. This is a D next to it, folks. It's a Democrat poll. And they looked at not just Joe Biden's numbers at present and Donald Trump's numbers at present. They also looked at leading Democrat possible replacements for Biden, how they performed in head-to-head polling with Donald Trump. And guess what? They did not do any better. In some cases, they did worse. Kamala Harris, the cackler, versus Donald Trump. Donald Trump wins by 3 points. Exactly where he's at with Joe Biden. Mayor Pete Buttigieg, our transportation secretary, who has spent most of his time in office out on paternity leave. He loses by 3 points. Cory Booker, a.k.a. Spartacus, a.k.a. Gropagus, my state's junior senator. I guess he'll be the senior senator soon if Bob Menendez gets convicted.
Unfortunately.
That's the only way you get promoted in New Jersey, Andrew, in politics, if somebody goes to jail ahead of you.
Right.
So, Gropagus, how does he do? Closer, 2 points. Still loses. Whitmer, 2 points. Klobuchar from Minnesota, 3 points. Shapiro from Pennsylvania loses to Donald Trump by 3 points. Doesn't make a difference because the opinion of Donald Trump is so baked in among the people that are disposed to vote for him. I think Donald Trump's floor is in that mid-40s range. So for one of these other Democrat nominees to build the kind of name recognition and operation and everything they need, and for them to be able to sort this out at a convention, again, we're going to get into it more than this evening. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but much easier said than done. Much easier said than done. And there was an exchange. This is another one of the cuts that I pulled tonight because I'm just enjoying the deliciousness of these Democrats and these never-Trumpers clawing at each other in their misery here. This is Tokyo Red herself, Jen Psaki, over on MSNBC, opposite Bill Kristol, formerly of the Weekly Standard, before he destroyed that and went full orange man bad. The poor man has issues. I hope he's getting treatment for them. They were arguing, and I'm actually understating a little bit. They were fighting with each other on the air the other day about whether or not Joe Biden could be replaced. And keep in mind, Jen Psaki worked for Joe Biden, and this is how she's talking about her former boss, the man who gave her a job and enabled her to have a cable news career. This is cut number 4.
Can I just add, Bill raised the open convention alternative option, which I think is like what would happen in the West Wing episode if there was a West Wing episode about this. And
we could do a debate.
Everybody would just convene, the president would endorse someone, and everybody would just line up behind them, and the public would be happy. That is not how it would work. And I think this is the piece that's completely underestimated. Joe Biden had a terrible debate night, terrible performance. I worked for him for a year and a half, as you know, and I don't think anybody should tell you otherwise. But an open convention means you have an amazing bench of potential 2028 candidates. A lot of the people we saw out on Thursday night. You have the Vice President of the United States. You have them competing against each other. You have a group of inside Democrats, not the American public, by the way, who nominated Joe Biden, who decided to nominate Joe Biden, selecting who the nominee is. And then after that process, somebody is spit out of that process, and a lot of people are angry. They're disappointed. Maybe they don't like who the person is. And then you have a person who is untested, even if they're great and they have enormous potential, which we have a lot of 2028 Democrats who do, who's untested with low name ID and a party that's divided and upset. That's the potential outcome of an open convention.
The party would unite, Jen, behind whoever came out of that convention. Would the party be upset if it were Harris or Shapiro or Whitmer? No, of course not. And healthy. Let them compete.
It's not
and the delegates are representative.
Bill,
the delegates got elected.
Bill, the delegates are not the American public writ large. And I think this is sometimes what's lost with these editorials, right? We don't know what the polling is going to say in a week. I think one of the lines in the Jen O'Malley-Dillon memo that was pretty telling was predicting maybe there's going to be a drop in the poll to set the expectations of that.
But suggesting it would be the media's fault.
Well, I didn't think that was a wise part of that line, but predicting that. But we don't know yet what the public thinks. And there's a lot of editorials. There's a lot of, yes, hand-wringing speculation. But I think it's important to also have a conversation about what the alternative looks like and what the potential consequences of that are, too.
Can you hear how upset she is? How animated she is? And we've all seen these panels on cable news where they're talking about an issue of great moment and import percolating out there across the fruited plain. Maybe they're debating one candidate versus another. This was more like a bunch of friends sitting around at their apartment after one of them who's not there got arrested for doing something stupid at a bar, and they're trying to figure out who's going to go bail them out. It's frantic. It's nervous. It's emotional. Because they are coming to grips with the fact that they bet on a lame horse and that they've set Donald Trump up to do what only one other man has done in the history of this country, which is win for a non-consecutive term.
Grover Cleveland
for the presidency. That's correct.
I'm a big history buff. I got a lot of high test scores in high school. So.
Oh well, good on you.
I got
you also got high marks in being humble.
Oops.
Oh, stop it. I'm a quarter narcissist too, so don't worry about it.
Oh, you and Rich then, huh?
Yeah, that's right. Well, Rich is like, well, it depends on the week, right?
Right.
We fluctuate, he and I.
Yeah, it goes up and down.
Yeah. 855-839-1210 is the number. Much more on the debate and everything else when we return here on the Matt Rooney Show. Don't go anywhere.
Hey, it's Nick Kale. Join me again on the first Wednesday of the month for WPHT's Veteran Spotlight. It's a program where we shine a spotlight on one outstanding local veteran in partnership with the Travis Manion Foundation, celebrating their remarkable commitment to community service and their exceptional service in the military. This Wednesday, July 3rd, we honor retired Marine Corps veteran Colonel Tom Manion for his service and contributions to the veteran community. Presented by Window Nation. For all of your window and door needs, visit windownation.com.
Hey, this is Ray Didinger. I had the opportunity to open the new Joe Conklin show. It was sensational. It includes all the impressions, Iverson, Merrill and Mike, Barkley. They brought in this whole musical component with a full orchestra. It's really good. His daughter Casey's part of it, his brother's part of it. They can rock it, boy. So you got all the music, plus you got all the comedy. It's a great night.
That's Conklin with City Rhythm at the Ocean City Music Pier in Ocean City, New Jersey on Saturday, July 13th. For tickets, go to joeconklin.com. joeconklin.com!
Kids 14 and under can be a baller like Nick when they receive a Nick Castellanos basketball jersey presented by CP Rankin Roofing Experts on Sunday, July 14th at 1:35 when the A's visit CBP. Order tickets now at Phillies.com. Who said sustainable can't be stylish? All fans will receive a stylish and sustainable Phillies cap presented by PGW on Friday, July 12th at 6:40 when the A's visit CBP. Snag your seats today at Phillies.com.
The following is a paid commercial message.
Using credit cards could soon become a hassle in Pennsylvania. Some in the legislature are considering a multi-million-dollar giveaway to corporate megastores and may force you to pay for parts of your purchase in cash, while small businesses will have to manage an accounting nightmare. This mandate could also expose information about the private purchases you make. Prevent credit card chaos at guardyourcard.com/Pennsylvania. Paid for by the Electronic Payments Coalition.
Do you feel like you're going through life clouded by doubt? Talk to California Psychics. Our trusted and accurate psychics are available 24/7. And we guarantee if it's not life-changing, it's free. Download the app or connect with us at CaliforniaPsychics.com.
Right now, new customers get 80% off their first reading. Experience the joy of certainty. California Psychics.
Be sure to follow Talk Radio 1210 WPHT on the free Odyssey app. Download it now.
I don't think there's anyone that's willing to go on record saying that Joe Biden had a good debate, except for Dr. Jill. There is division over on our YouTube page, youtube.com/@1210WPHT, about tonight's Fun Guy t-shirt that I'm wearing. I'm wearing a Fun Guy shirt. That's what my wife calls them. It felt tropical today, Andrew.
Terrible.
99% humidity,
Terrible.
I think, for most of the day.
Hate it.
Yes. You had to swim to your car if you walked outside.
Yep.
So I decided, well, if it's going to feel tropical, we also have our first hurricane of the season.
Right. It's coming up.
Yep, percolating down there. Has an old lady name.
Is it? It's a hurricane, or is it still tropical?
I think it's a hurricane.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's already a hurricane. Which global warming, undoubtedly, right?
No doubt.
We don't even have to.
There's no other logical scientific explanation.
Right. We didn't have hurricanes.
We only had them like once
before
every
Donald Trump, I'm pretty sure.
We only had them once every 200 years.
Something like that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's in a book. So, we've got a hurricane coming up. It just felt like a Fun Guy shirt kind of day, but not everyone loves my Fun Guy shirt. Mangle Mush says, Matt, that shirt looks like my grandma's couch. That's a heck of a couch. I would put that in my sunroom, Mangle Mush. Just saying. Upholstery this fine, I'd sit on that. Especially this time of year. I actually do think my grandmother used to have cushions she put out on her deck this time of year that look something like this.
Right.
And I love my grandma.
The floral prints and the bright color in the background.
Yes. Yes. Nothing says party in summer.
My sister-in-law has those the deck furniture coverings.
Yeah, it's kind of. I mean, this is like flamingos.
Yeah. Well, she actually they went to Hawaii back in April. So
Yeah.
she brought like that mindset and that, that stuff back with her. So
Well, good for her.
yeah. They
Good for her.
had a fun time.
Yeah. Be how you want to feel. That's what I say. Margaret is defending me. Love the shirt, Matt. Not every man would want to wear it. That is true. I am brave. Jill should be arrested for elder abuse. Is Andrew still on Rich's show? I think so.
Sometimes.
He's kind of bouncing around. This is what happens at the station. Someone comes in, everybody likes them, and then we kind of squeeze them like an orange until they're just completely bled out all over the floor. And then inevitably they will be taken from my show and given to Stocker's program. So eventually you'll be on the morning show.
I am getting trained on the morning show.
There you go. See, that's the trajectory.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
But I'm covering for Henry. That's why.
Henry the Great.
Yep. Henry the
Who's
Eighth.
no longer on this program.
Yeah.
Which we miss Henry, but we're happy to have Andrew with us. Susie loves Jeff. He says it's actually Category 4. So, yeah, she's confirming that.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's legit then.
That's legit.
Where is it right now? Do you know?
It's down somewhere in the Caribbean.
Oh, okay.
Because I am a big fan of St. Martin. I went there once on a trip. You get someplace sometimes you just fall in love with it.
Yeah.
So I'm still in one of those Facebook groups for people that go frequently to an island, even though I've only been there once.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to follow it.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's, offering thoughts and prayers today.
Yeah.
So I guess it's somewhere down in that part of the world. So I don't know if it's going to actually get up here.
I've only ever had those feelings on vacation twice. Like going to a place where you're in love and you'd love to go back. On my wife and my honeymoon, we went, it was a Royal Caribbean cruise, and they have like a privately owned island that they turned into like a water park.
Yeah.
Spectacular.
That sounds
Loved
awesome.
it. It was great. I was a kid in the candy store.
You like water parks, do you?
Oh, yeah. Especially like in the Caribbean.
Yeah.
Like, it's perfect because you can, my wife doesn't really like
And which island was this off of?
It's Coco Cay. It's like they call it like a fun day at Coco Cay or whatever.
I've heard of this. Yeah.
It's great. They have a water slide that's like half the size of the Empire State Building. It's huge.
Oh.
Yeah.
See, then that makes your suit like fly all the way up.
It's not as you
tall
no
as
longer
the
have any back hair.
Yeah, it's not as tall as the Empire State Building, but there's one of them down in Wildwood. at Maurice
I've
Pier.
heard. I heard.
Yeah. And my bathing suit, sorry, too much information for a family show here, but my bathing suit when I got to the bottom was somewhere around my chin. And
You got to pull the strings tighter then.
I sounded like Kamala Harris for the rest of the day. My voice was exactly. That's right. Every time somebody asked me a question, I cackled.
The only other vacation spot that I thought was perfect, and I'd love to go back, and I know we've been bashing Disney a lot on this show, but I do have to say it was exciting. And again, I was a kid in the candy store piloting the Millennium Falcon at the Star Wars thing that they got down there.
Oh, yeah, that is pretty cool.
It is. And being captured by the Empire. Who doesn't want to be captured by the Empire?
I know what you're talking.
And being rescued by the Jedi?
It's not the same one as the Millennium Falcon ride, though. They have that one where you're on a regular spaceship.
Yeah.
And they pull you into what's that giant ship called? It's like an aircraft carrier, but for the stormtroopers.
Star Destroyer.
There you go. So you get pulled into that, and you get out. You do feel like you're in a movie set.
Yeah.
Look, it makes it all the more tragic that Disney's evil.
When you
because they still are capable of doing things that no one else can do. Right?
It's like you go to Disney World and you fly the Millennium Falcon and you get captured by the Empire and then get rescued.
And then you get trans. They offer you reassignment surgery once you're on the Star Destroyer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But then you have to go to Disney Plus, and if you want to watch Star Wars, you got to go to Disney Plus and watch a bunch of crap.
Yeah. No, it's just it makes it all the worse.
Welcome to 2024.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I can't wait to get out of it in some ways. Although this week I'm generally enjoying myself. Here's some fun news. We mentioned Europe earlier for something a little bit more morbid, right? A terror alert, possible terror attack. Big news out of France. Macron, you may recall, decided to gamble and hold elections. It looks like he lost. It looks like Le Pen finally succeeded, kind of, sort of. According to France24.com, one of the major news outlets covering that country, Le Pen's far-right party wins first round of French elections. So I don't have any results. I don't even know if I know how to interpret them. Not being a super close follower of French politics, but we know enough to know that is seismic. That is seismic, not only for France itself, but also for the European Union. Now that Le Pen apparently has succeeded, at least in the first round. Germany recently had a revolution on the right as well. So something is happening on the continent. What it means, I don't know. But the natives, as they say, are restless, Andrew, out there, and it's not just in this country.
Well, it's also you get a taste of stuff that's going on in other parts of the world too. You know, the president of El Salvador has drawn a lot of worldwide attention just because of how well and how quickly and how efficiently he's cleaned up his country. He opened one of the largest prisons in the world, and all of the drug trafficking, the sex traffickers, and all that stuff. He went to town and cleaned house, literally. And now he's turned El Salvador, which was considered the murder capital of the world.
No longer.
Nope. He turned that thing around quick.
But this is always the tragedy of man, right? So Europe may be in the middle of the continent of a realignment. You just mentioned an example of a country that may be cycling. We may be going back to Donald Trump, and the pendulum might be swinging to the right. Meanwhile, Britain's going in the other direction. It looks like Labour is on the verge of an historic victory. And, you know, there's no equivalency between Republicans and conservatives and Democrats and Labour over in the UK. The Labour guys are basically full-fledged communists in 2024. The conservatives are what we would have used to call a blue dog Democrat, which don't really exist in any significant numbers in this country. They're kind of moderate Democrats. So it's hard to compare things across the pond, but they're going in the wrong direction over there. Sometimes people need to make the wrong choices before they ultimately make the right one. That's always been the case.
That sounds like a parent book or something, you know.
I'm sure I at one point got that from a parent book that I internalized nothing else from that I should have. But maybe that's the way that this country's going to. Maybe we learned our lesson. And if we didn't know it already, we definitely got to confirm for us in that debate on Thursday night. 855-839-1210 is the number. YouTube.com/@1210WPHT. About to take a break. Hour number one behind us. 2 hours still ahead. Tom Szymanski, National Republican political consultant. He has prepped candidates for major races for debates. What does he think about the fallout from Thursday's clash? We'll be back with that and a whole lot more in just a moment.
Hi, this is Joe Medercher, PNC Bank Regional President. What's important to you? What drives you? What do you want your wealth to do? At PNC Private Bank, we call that your why, and we want to understand yours. Maybe it's creating a legacy, buying a home, or enjoying your retirement. Whatever your goals are, we'll work with you to build a personalized wealth plan to help you achieve it. So tell us, what's your why? To learn more, please visit pnc.com/privatebank. PNC Private Bank is a service mark of the PNC Financial Services Group, Inc. PNC Bank, National Association, member FDIC.
It's here, the summer heat, and it's getting hotter, and that heat's just pouring into your home. Need a solution? Trust PJ Fitzpatrick for the perfect new insulated and vented roof. They've earned thousands of 5-star reviews and back all new roofs with a lifetime guarantee on materials and labor. PJ Fitzpatrick, voted best of Philly, installs most roofs in just one day. Set up a free design consultation. Plus, they have special financing if you need it. Visit trustpj.com today. That's trustpj.com.
The following is a paid commercial message.
Using credit cards could soon become a hassle in Pennsylvania. Some in the legislature are considering a multi-million-dollar giveaway to corporate megastores and may force you to pay for parts of your purchase in cash, while small businesses will have to manage an accounting nightmare. This mandate could also expose information about the private purchases you make. Prevent credit card chaos at guardyourcard.com/Pennsylvania. Paid for by the Electronic Payments Coalition.
Vision loss doesn't define us.
And we are here to let those challenged with blinding retinal diseases know.
But together, we are stronger.
We are the Foundation Fighting Blindness.
Join the fight at fightingblindness.org.
Philabundance is the region's largest hunger relief organization, serving more than 90,000 people each week. Almost a third are children. Help feed those in need at philabundance.org.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-575-6481. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS.
Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start.
Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems.
We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau.
You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com
or call 800-575-6481. That's 800-575-6481.
Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
I'm Michael Toscano. President Biden and family members spent the day in private at Camp David with those closest to him urging him not to leave his re-election bid. CBS News Chief White House correspondent Nancy Cortez is hearing from campaign sources.
Biden aides say there are no plans to make significant changes to Biden's campaign schedule or strategy in the wake of Thursday's debate performance. They aren't scrambling to arrange any major interviews or press conferences to showcase him in an unscripted setting.
For now, it's up to top Democrats to show their support for Biden, as CBS's Skylar Henry reports.
Democrats are hitting several swing states and the airwaves, telling their voter base to stay the course following President Biden's debate performance.
The president had a difficult night, just like every single one of us do.
However, Maryland Congressman Jamie Raskin says rigorous talks within the party are taking place.
The Supreme Court is set to issue what many expect will be a landmark ruling tomorrow on former President Donald Trump's claim of legal immunity while he was president. CBS News Chief Legal Correspondent Jan Crawford.
I see zero chance they're going to embrace Donald Trump's argument that he has absolute immunity and can't be prosecuted. I think they're going to say that there is some immunity for the official actions of a president.
Less than a week after the Department of Justice charged Boeing with fraud in connection with 2 deadly plane crashes, the department is now offering a plea deal. CBS News Justice Department reporter Rob Legary tells us Boeing would have to plead guilty to fraud.
If Boeing agrees to the Justice Department's terms, a federal judge in Texas would have to sign off on the deal.
Paul Cassell, an attorney who represents 15 of the victims' families, told CBS News the proposal was, quote, another sweetheart plea deal, and said the families will strenuously object to the deal.
Wind and rain from Hurricane Beryl, a dangerously powerful storm, is already hitting Barbados and the southeastern Caribbean ahead of early morning landfall. Warnings to shelter have gone up across the Caribbean, as we hear from National Hurricane Meteorologist Mike Brennan.
We could see catastrophic damage from Beryl. It could strengthen a little bit more, but regardless, we're looking at a life-threatening situation.
Beryl's winds have been hitting 130 miles per hour. North Korea is rattling its ballistic missiles again, as Alex Jensen reports from Seoul.
North Korea test-fired 2 ballistic missiles shortly after 5 a.m., according to South Korea's military, less than a week after the North claimed to have carried out a multiple warhead missile test that could potentially advance its nuclear weapon capabilities, emboldened by its recent mutual defense treaty with Russia.
This is CBS News.
Sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Looking for a career path with flexibility, great pay, and benefits? Go to progressive.com/careers and apply online today.
WPHT, WPHT HD, WOGL HD3 Philadelphia. From the Cherry Hill Volvo Studios, where relationships matter. Always live on the free Odyssey app. Live and local with Matt Rooney. On Talk Radio 1210, WPHT.
Welcome back, old friends, new frenemies, and all who lie elsewhere in between on the spectrum that is life. I am Matt Rooney. This is the Matt Rooney Show. Don't accept any imitations, substitutions. What was the word they came up with? Cheap fakes? They're not using it anymore, Andrew.
Yeah.
You notice I haven't seen that phrase in about 72 hours now?
Good. That's fine.
Yeah. Because as it turns out, it wasn't cheap because it was accurate. Joe Biden, I'll tell you what, I watched it with a medical professional, okay? I watched the debate with a medical professional, somebody who deals with a lot of people that have suffered strokes and other neurological events. And they looked at his mouth, saw it was screwed on crooked, and said, oh, my God, I think he's had a stroke. And nothing that transpired during the course of those 90 minutes dissuaded them from the fact that there was something going on here other than the normal ravages of age that affect everyone once you start to get a little up there in years. Serious business. We're breaking it down tonight here on the program. Every possible angle. We'll be joined this hour by my good friend Tom Szymanski, National Republican political consultant, who not only has worked on major races, he continues to work on some of the biggest House races in the country. He's a guy that's prepped candidates for major races, House races, Senate races. He's been in the room for gubernatorial debate prep. We want to get his perspective not only on what happened last week, but how it's going to affect election 2024. And then in our third and final hour, the 9 o'clock hour, Dan Cerrucci joins us, frequent guest and contributor here on the Matt Rooney Show, to discuss not only Joe Biden's performance, but also Donald Trump. We're almost forgetting that there was another man on the stage, right? President Trump was there, and he did pretty well. Andrew and I dished on that a little bit in the first hour. Naturally, the media does not want to focus on the fact that Donald Trump had a solid night. They want to make it about Joe Biden, and they keep using the same phrase. They've settled on an excuse. He had a bad night. He had a bad debate. Barack Obama took to X because Obama is still looked at as, if not a secular messiah anymore, he's still considered the most successful recent Democrat president because he actually accomplished anything noteworthy, not in the minds of anyone that actually knows anything, but he got reelected, right? So that counts as success in some people's books. And he perpetuated the narrative that this was a one-off. He had a bad night. Everybody has bad nights. We've heard 16 different versions of the same excuse since then on every cable news show and all over social media. Folks, no. That was not a bad night. A bad night is I come on this radio program, I'm a little flat. Andrew and I are missing our cues. And at the end of the evening, I say to Andrew, yeah, it was an okay show, but we've done better, right? That's a bad night. A bad night is a baseball player that is over 300 and he fouls out, or he, I don't know, maybe gets an error or two out in the field.
Yeah, a couple errors in the outfield, something like that.
But otherwise consistently earns his major league money. That's having a bad night. That was not a bad night. We got direct evidence that the President of the United States is in an advanced state, not an early stage, as some of these newspaper editorials are alleging. He is in an advanced state of decline. He probably has some sort of condition, to categorize it how you will, whether it's dementia, whether it's Alzheimer's. Sometimes it's hard, even under normal circumstances, to get a definitive diagnosis for one of these things, even when you're dealing with honest brokers, not with the White House and a media that's trying to obscure what's happening to a Democrat president who they desperately wanted to win. And I say wanted kind of sort of in the past tense because you've seen the editorials over the course of the weekend. They're brutal. We now have two major newspapers. One, the old gray lady, the New York Times editorial page, and the Atlanta Constitution-Journal, which not nearly as well circulated as the New York Times, obviously, but a major paper in a swing state calling on Joe Biden to drop out, to suspend his race. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution, excuse me, I juxtaposed them. I had a Biden moment, though. But you see, the rest of the program is flawless, so that was a bad moment. That's not indicative of the fact that Matt Rooney is losing it. I am at the top of my game.
I see what you did there.
See what I did there?
Yeah.
Illustrated that so everybody understood what we're doing here. Let's look at this AGC editorial, though, for just a second. Okay? They want him to pass in another term. The unfortunate truth is that Biden should withdraw from the race for the good of the nation he has served so admirably for half of a century. Excuse the time out there for laughter, folks. I had trouble getting through that. Now, notably, the editorial page journalists here, whoever participates in the editorial board, they didn't get into any of his gaffes, which were numerous during the course of the debate. He said that Bo, his son, died in Iraq, didn't die of Iraq, died tragically of cancer here at home. He said that he beat Medicare, and Trump had a great comeback for that one and says, yeah, you didn't just beat it, you killed it. He had that very bizarre line, and I didn't know about this, Andrew, until I heard this debate, that apparently there's a scourge of in-law rape in this country, people being raped by their in-laws, and women who need abortions because they're raped by their sisters. I know for Democrats, gender is this amorphous term that's whatever they need it to be. I'm pretty sure that there is not a large volume of abortions that are brought about by people having unwanted sex with a female, right? A woman on a woman sexual encounter. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that what I know about science, and I guess it ain't much. I went to law school, right? I was a politics major in college. I don't think that's something we see much of in high volume. But Joe Biden said it nevertheless during the debate. But the Atlanta Journal-Constitution continues to say that Biden deserves a better exit from public life than the one he endured when he shuffled off the stage Thursday night. Notice how all the sympathy is directed towards Joe Biden. And I know that's intentional for a few reasons, one of which is that we have been lied to by the Biden administration and lied to by the media for years now concerning the true state of this man's mental condition. This is not a one-off. This is not something that's just happened in the past 6 months. Joe Biden has been sliding for a long time, and they did everything they could to not only obscure it from the view of the American people, but also, just as they did during the Russia hoax and when they were alleging that the laptop was a work of fiction. It ultimately turned out to be reality, obviously. No matter what particular scandal, real or invented, we're talking about, they are always gaslighting us, and they gaslit us when it came to Joe Biden's incredibly scary state of decline. But now they can't hide it anymore. Now they can't hide it anymore. And so they're twisting it and they're manipulating us once again into trying to be sympathetic for this guy, right? Who should have gone under his own power a long time ago. This is the opposite of the Cincinnatus principle. There's a great George Washington quote about knowing when it's time to go. Joe Biden, I can't even believe I need to say it, ain't no George Washington. But I have a little mashup here out of the RNC that you need to hear that underscores the point. It is a compilation of just a small percentage of the times that the media tried to convince us that Joe Biden was robust, that he was vigorous, that he's never been better. When, of course, we know that nothing could be further from the truth. This is cut number 12, Andrew, from our cut sheet. Montage of Democrats lying. It's what they do best.
He is sharp, intensely probing, and detail-oriented and focused.
This is a man who is sharp, who is on top of his game, who knows what's going on.
This guy's tough. He's smart. He's on his game.
His mental acuity is great.
This is a very sharp president.
This is a man that's on his game.
President Biden is absolutely fit.
There's not a problem.
He's sharp, he's fit, he's always answering questions.
He is on the ball.
He was sharper than anyone I've spoken to.
He is sharp. He is on top of things.
There's no doubt in my mind that the president is mentally fit for office.
Biden has proven himself to have a strong memory.
He's completely mentally sharp.
He's at the top of his game.
Did that look like the top of Joe Biden's game to anybody? No. And some of the reactions afterwards from some of the same people, they're almost laughable if the topic matter wasn't so serious. But let's turn to somebody for a second who doesn't have their head stuck up their keister. This is Representative Jen Kiggins. She's a freshman running in Virginia's 2nd Congressional District. She was rallying with Donald Trump and Governor Glenn Youngkin over the weekend. Remember, Virginia, now a swing state. Virginia's not a state that any Republicans carried since 2004. Obama took it twice. Trump failed to carry it in 2016 or 2020. That's because despite rural Virginia still being kind of reddish and that military population along the coast, the Northern Virginia, D.C. diaspora has taken what was once a red state and made it the opposite. But that could be about to change in 2024. All the polling suggests as much. Here is Jen Kiggins weighing in on the race, specifically on Joe Biden, and we need to point out she's uniquely qualified, perhaps, to speak to what's going on with Joe Biden on that debate stage. This is cut number 3.
But let me tell you, I'm a geriatric nurse practitioner by trade, and I know elder abuse. And what we saw last night was definitely elder abuse. It's sad. It's sad. Do you want that man? I think of our great military. I think of our great military district we have here. To think of that man as the commander-in-chief of our armed forces, I'm tired of him being an embarrassment to our great nation. I come from a big Navy family as a former Navy pilot, married to a Navy pilot, and the mom now of a future Navy pilot, in addition to being the daughter of a Green Beret who served in Vietnam. I know what it means to serve. That man is not serving our great nation and not doing it justice.
Boom. You can feel the energy down there in Virginia. Republicans definitely believe they have a wind at their backs. And I think they do. And we have some polling news from a little closer to home, which we'll get to a little later this hour. There's a little bit of a tease for you. Occasionally I can be a tease, Andrew, when I want to be.
That's good. That you got to mix it in there with to have a good and grasping the attention of the listeners. You got to give them a reason to stick around.
A little bit of suspense,
right?
Makes for a good relationship.
Absolutely.
855-839-1210 over on YouTube, youtube.com/@1210WPHT. Please give us a like if you haven't done that already. If you are watching as well as listening, Let's take a quick break. We might visit the phones, which we try to do occasionally throughout the program. We'll also have momentarily Tom Szymanski, my friend, political consultant extraordinaire, to help us understand the aftermath of Trump versus Biden, the first debate, probably the only debate. Let's be honest about it. I don't think there's any chance, even if he stays in this thing, that they wheel him out there for another one. That would be political malpractice. But hey, I've been wrong before, even though it doesn't happen very often here on 1210 WPHT. Don't move a muscle. Back in just a moment.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 50-year-old male, maybe a bit porky, and you may even have type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. Call Term Provider. Speak with Big Lou at 800-700-6898. Big Lou will find a term life policy for you even if you have type 2 diabetes, are overweight, or have high blood pressure. Term Provider has helped thousands of people like you who think they can't afford term life insurance. To buy $1 million of affordable term life for you, all you need to do is call Big Lou at 800-700-6898. Lou will make sure the scales are tipped in your favor. Call 800-700-6898. Big Lou will answer your call and work to fit you into a term life policy that you can afford. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too. Call 800-700-6898. 800-700-6898 or biglou.com.
Eric was way behind on his taxes.
I owed a lot of money to the IRS, almost $15,000. I tried to make payments.
The IRS wasn't satisfied with Eric's efforts, so they came after him full force.
They're coming to put a lien and a hold on all my income, my home, my car. I was just overwhelmed at what to do.
Then Eric called Optima Tax Relief.
When Optima Tax got involved, the calls would stop, the threats would stop. It was easy like 1, 2, 3.
Optima Tax Relief is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, and their team of expert tax professionals took care of Eric's problem.
I owe $15,000, and now my debt is clean. I don't owe anything.
Take Eric's advice.
If you have a tax problem, you need to call Optima Tax now.
Call Optima Tax Relief for a free consultation. Call 800-354-2840. 800-354-2840. 800-354-2840.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Don't miss the Education Show with Dom Giordano every Sunday morning at 5:30. Find out how you can help your child or grandchild succeed. Sponsored by New Hope Academy.
I am a father.
I am a mentor.
I am a wife.
I am an artist.
I am a husband.
I am a friend.
I am a sports fan.
I am your neighbor.
I am a member of your church.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am a police officer.
Support your local law enforcement officials. Sponsored by the Pennsylvania Fraternal Order of Police. Visit partnersinpublicsafety.com.
The following is a paid commercial message.
Using credit cards could soon become a hassle in Pennsylvania. Some in the legislature are considering a multi-million-dollar giveaway to corporate megastores and may force you to pay for parts of your purchase in cash, while small businesses will have to manage an accounting nightmare. This mandate could also expose information about the private purchases you make. Prevent credit card chaos at guardyourcard.com/Pennsylvania. Paid for by the Electronic Payments Coalition.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-575-6481. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-575-6481. That's 800-575-6481. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
Hey, this is Matt Spiegel, and on my podcast, The PBP, Voices of Baseball, we learn how the best broadcasters in the game, like the Reds' John Sadak, try to capture the greatness of the best players, like Ellie De La Cruz.
He's a video game character. I mean, he is so athletic, and I think each moment is its own living entity, and I try to just match whatever that moment is.
The PBP, Voices of Baseball. We bring you the people who bring you the game. Find us on the Odyssey app and wherever you get your podcasts.
Yo, Roy is Ford. What? We know your favorite station is 1210 WPHT. WPHT.
Andrew, I want to know your opinion. Was the June debate, which was the idea of the Biden team, they wanted this June debate, were they setting up their own man?
It could be true.
Yeah, I don't think you can rule it out.
No. I think what it really just boils down to is they wanted to see what Joe had left. And now that they've seen what he doesn't have left, it's an immediate switch, and I think it's more about, like, it's honestly, like, I think we're gonna see it's not gonna be as bad, but we're gonna see similarities to how the media treated Donald Trump when he was the president, and you can kind of see like how they bashed him and they were talking negatively about him. It's not gonna be as bad, but you will start to see like Jen Psaki, he was press secretary for the first 2 years of his term, and I think that's what you're going to kind of see, where they're going to start talking about him negatively. They're going to start talking about he should take himself out of the race. He should, whatever it is that they're going to say to get him to resign himself or to get him out or whatever it is.
You raise a very interesting point. Which is that it almost seems like with the ferocity of the reaction from leftist media to Biden, the minute this debate was over, it's almost like they were waiting for it.
It's almost like they know what was going to happen.
A trap was going to spring.
Mm-hmm.
And they were just waiting for the debate to happen so they had an excuse.
Well, it's like I said, I honestly think they were waiting to see how President Biden was going to do. I do think they were going to at least see how he was reacting. But I think in the back of their minds they knew what was going to happen, and now we're just seeing that plan be put into an action phase of, it's time to get rid of this guy.
What a world where we have to think like this.
I know. And they, it's crazy to me how quickly they turn on their, quote unquote, their own people. It's like that. It's super quick. That's what's scary.
I used to try to, like many people, I tried to protect myself from conspiracy. Now I assume the conspiracy may be accurate until it is disproven.
Right.
In almost every case.
Right.
Because they continue to be validated.
Yeah.
855-839-1210. Let's go to the phones real quick before our guests, because I know some of you have been languishing. Let's go to Frank in Burlington. Frank, you're on the Matt Rooney Show. Good evening, sir. What's on your mind?
Hey, Matt. Quite honestly, I love your show, by the way.
Thank you, sir.
Nothing the left does is by accident. And, let's be honest, Biden's handlers and pundits, even on CNN, they already knew his cognitive problems. And quite honestly, I think we're being gaslighted again. Oh, I'm so surprised. No, they weren't surprised. They put, and I almost felt bad for Biden, quite honestly. As much as I can't stand his administration, I felt bad for the man because they put him in a no-win position, basically to justify candidate replacement. And Joe Biden, she's garbage. That's his wife. She knows what his mindset is and how he really is probably going senile, and she still puts him in a position where he's going to be embarrassed in front of the whole world. And quite honestly, this wasn't by accident. That's all I'm saying.
Well, look, building off of what you just said and what we were talking about a minute ago, Frank, I think you're probably right. If you had told me 6 months ago that Joe Biden was being set up by his own team to fail, what I always used to say was that I always assume incompetence before conspiracy, right? Because for all of Joe Biden's obvious flaws, he was a willing vehicle for their agenda. They put some kind of crazy nonsense in front of him from the far left, and he would rubber stamp it. So he was accomplishing the mission that the Obama Democrat Party wanted him to carry out. But, there's too many things now, right? We talked a moment ago about how the media, and you're referencing how it seemed like they were ready to pounce. His aides are already throwing him under the bus, speaking to the media about his incredible lack of lucidity outside of the hours of 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. They're already trashing his debate performance and trying to take the onus off of themselves. Weren't they the ones responsible for preparing this geriatric president for the debate? Don't they deserve any of the fault for how he performed? So I'm with you. I'm becoming a believer. Rich Zeoli and I have been going back and forth about this for a while. He has been on the "this is a plot to get rid of Joe" train for months now. I am only now beginning to accept that it might be reality. So you and Rich might be onto something. It's always dangerous, and Andrew will agree with me, to doubt Mr. Zeoli.
No, I love Rich. But quite honestly, we all have to realize that the left is always 5 steps ahead of all of us. So it's like,
that is true. They play chess and we play checkers. Frank, I appreciate you joining us here on 1210 and the nice things you had to say about the program. Glad you enjoy it. We enjoy doing it. Let's get to our guest. Guest numero uno. We can talk till we're blue in the face about what his aides knew, what they didn't, what their Joe Biden could have prepared better, whether or not that was the best that he had to offer. We want to chat with someone who's actually been in the rooms when this type of debate prep is happening. My friend Tom, he has worked on House campaigns, gubernatorial campaigns, Senate campaigns. He's not only helped high-level candidates for high office with debate prep, he's actually prepped candidates by having served as a sparring partner in those debate prep sessions, which I always think must be tremendous fun to get to play the opponent in one of these things. So you have to not only know politics, but you have to be fast on your feet to be effective in that kind of situation. We know Tom Szymanski is, and he joins us on tonight's Matt Rooney program. My friend, thank you for coming back to the show. We always love having you.
Always love being here, and my apologies if I'm not 100% lucid myself. I'm dealing with a cold, but you see, my cold is actually real, unlike Biden's, which his aides did not disclose existed until halfway through the debate.
We had your fiance swab you before tonight's program to confirm it, to make sure you weren't gaslighting us like the White House so often does.
That's right. Look, Lauren gave me a test and everything. We're all clear.
You sound a lot better tonight, though, for the record, though, than the other day when we spoke. You definitely had a Louis Armstrong sucking helium out of a balloon vibe the other day. It's the best way I could possibly describe it. Yeah.
Thanks, Matt. I appreciate it.
Well, what are friends for, right? But we're glad we're glad you're well enough to talk to us this evening about this incredible debate. Which, I mean, we're joking about the cold thing, but I saw before we came on the program this evening, someone shared a photo of Joe Biden right after the debate visiting a pancake house, a crowded pancake house. We know how crowded these things can get because people love pancakes. And they pack them in, especially in that part of the country.
Just a second. These are the same people who 4 years ago were telling us that you needed to wear 2 masks and lock yourself in your basement if you had a sniffly nose. And now he's going to a Waffle House while he's supposedly sick.
That's right. So, look, when you have a cold, maybe you have a hankering for pancakes. But the whole thing just feels disingenuous. Let me ask you a question from the top here, Tom, which may sound obvious, but sometimes I think things can get blown out of proportion in the echo chamber. We have a tendency, especially in this 24/7 news cycle, social media, to overanalyze stuff. As someone who's been on these big campaigns that have ups and downs, Is this moment for Joe Biden as bad as it seems?
I think it's bad. I would caution people, when I'm on campaigns and analyzing things, I try not to ride the high highs and I try not to get stuck in the low lows. And I guess what I mean by that is voters have short attention spans. I think that he did a lot of damage to himself. If you listen to those, what I would call sort of reluctant Biden voters, people who knew coming into this that he was not necessarily 100% cognitively fit, but they just have a personal disdain for Donald Trump to the point where they were willing to kind of overlook Biden's, declining cognitive state. I think this kind of forced them to confront that reality. I know you played some clips in your last hour of people who sort of echoed that sentiment. The question is, will those people remain as alarmed throughout the summer as they are today? Look, this was a really, really bad night for Biden, but I would remind folks that his State of the Union address 2 months ago, while not great, it was not bad either. So let's not discount the possibility that maybe he did just have a really bad night, and there's another breaking development in this race that diminishes this concern in people's minds moving forward. But we'll see is the short answer on that, Matt.
No, you're right. I mean, you never know where campaigns are going to go and the ability of events, externalities to intervene. We just mentioned at the top of the program tonight, now there's a terror alert in Europe for our installations over there over the course of the next week or two. You never know where the next twist is going to come from. Although it does seem like the real danger here for Joe Biden is he has now confirmed in a very visible way. There were tens of millions of people watching that debate. It always seems like the first debate is the one that gets the most eyeballs, and I guess that's for logical reasons. But he's confirmed what a lot of Americans were already thinking. An example closer to home, Tom, I often think of is Chris Christie and Bridgegate. So Chris Christie, they never found any evidence that he was directly involved with the closing of lanes at the George Washington Bridge, but the media and the Democrats had perpetrated a branding for him, a view of him that was out there in the popular ether as a bully. And so as soon as his administration was accused of engaging in political reprisal, I think it confirmed what a lot of voters felt about him already, and that it just proved damaging for his political brand, and he never swam away from it. And I know that that's a different thing, but it almost kind of feels like the same effect here.
No, and there are many examples throughout history of this happening and optics playing big roles in these debates. In 1992, the economy had suffered a downturn. George H.W. Bush was facing a strong challenge from then Arkansas Governor Bill Clinton, and there was this concern that George H.W. Bush was more concerned about foreign affairs. So we had just finished the first Iraq war. He was more concerned about foreign affairs than he was about what was going on at home, and that he was disattached from the economic pain people were facing. And in one of those debates, there were a few times throughout the evening where George H.W. Bush checked his wristwatch while he was on camera, and it was much more subtle than the just very blatant and glaring ineptitude of Biden the other night, but it was enough to reinforce the notion to people that this guy maybe doesn't care about me. In 1988, there was Michael Dukakis, the first time George H.W. Bush ran, and they were trying to paint him as a weak Massachusetts liberal coming into that debate. And the polls were neck and neck, and the first question off the bat about Dukakis being soft on crime was, if your wife, Mr. Dukakis, were raped and murdered, would you favor the death penalty for that offender? And first words out of his mouth were no, I wouldn't. And everyone sitting at home kind of thought, yeah, this guy doesn't have the spine. He doesn't have the guts. So yeah, there's a lot of historical precedent for what you're saying, Matt.
Yeah, and you would at least expect in Dukakis' case, even if that's how you felt about the death penalty, you should at least struggle with it and empathize with people who've been in that position when you're being asked about your spouse. So the idea of Dukakis not only being a lefty but wooden and detached, I think that's why it was such a fatal moment for him. I forget whether that was before or after he was riding in the tank with the helmet too.
With the helmet, who could say?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing he could be grateful for is that happened before the age of the meme. It would have been even worse. It was already pretty bad.
So I think it's important to point out, though, that for as bad as Biden didn't just lose the debate. Trump won the debate. Trump showed remarkable restraint and message discipline. I think he looked remarkably presidential and composed, more so than he ever has, frankly. And look, when you're talking with candidates about these debates, you're trying to convince them to push one singular message throughout the evening, regardless of what the question is. You want the talking points when you're answering a question to put fuel in the tank of that one singular message. And Trump's message, I think, came through very loud and clear. Things were better when I was president. They're a disaster now. And whether it's the border, economy, or foreign policy, they're worse because Biden not only has terrible policies, but he's not mentally fit to serve. I couldn't tell you what Biden's message was. And they did an analysis of that. They broke down minute by minute what each candidate spoke about. And Trump's three of his top four were economy and immigration, which are far and away the top two issues in any single poll that you look at in the United States right now. And foreign policy, which of course is a disaster under the Biden administration. Biden's, while he did focus a lot on the economy, two of his top three in as far as time spent on subject matters attacking Trump, two of his top three were January 6th and abortion. So yeah. Just they keep coming back to that playbook. Although, and one last thing on that point, though, overall, Trump actually spoke more on abortion than Biden did. You know, there's this talking point out there that, you know, the right is vulnerable on abortion and the right is vulnerable on abortion. And when we have people in our party who sometimes adopt stupid policy opinions on that matter, yeah, it can be hurtful. But when you explain your position bluntly and in a clear, direct fashion with the voters, and when it's one that is a mainstream position, which Trump's is, there's no reason not to talk about it. So I feel like it's an under-discussed point coming out of that debate that Trump went right after what our biggest vulnerability is supposed to be.
And you and I have been talking about that offline for a while, that if you look at 2022, for instance, when Republicans were widely viewed as having gotten their clocks cleaned in part because of the aftermath of Dobbs, candidates, even in bluer states, that ran at abortion instead away from it tended to do better. So Donald Trump, and I think you're kind of alluding to this, he doesn't get a lot of credit for being a skilled tactician when it comes to messaging, but I think he and/or his people really seem to get the better of this issue this time around by having a very coherent, sane, moderate. I don't want to say moderate because I actually think it's a pretty conservative position. I think the better way to put it would be it's a very well-reasoned and hard-to-argue with position that most people would consider reasonable. No person is going to listen to that is on the fence on that issue or maybe leans a little left on that issue and be more afraid of Donald Trump and what he might do on abortion than before they heard him give that answer.
Well, and he's been saying the one thing that most Republicans have been afraid to say for whatever reason for the last 2 years, which is Democrats favor abortion up until the moment of birth. Yep. They are in favor of no restrictions on third trimester pregnancies. So who's the real radical on this issue?
And they're trying to shove it down his throat, all these fact checkers saying, oh, nobody's talking about killing children after they're born.
The governor of Virginia did. The former governor of Virginia did, I should say.
Well, right. And there's another great example, right, of how this issue, if you confront it, it can work. It worked in Virginia. And if you deny medical care to a child that is born, that is an abortion that's occurred after birth. So it's just it's semantics. It's the kind of semantics that makes people hate politics. So, I mean, I think you're right to say it, my friend. I think Donald Trump, we're talking about how poorly Joe Biden did, rightly so, but Donald Trump had a strong debate, and it's a big part of the story here. I mentioned when I was teasing your appearance tonight that even though you've worked in a variety of different capacities in politics in New Jersey and elsewhere, you're a native son of the Jersey Shore and proud of it. I know you are. You've worked a lot recently on congressional races, some big races around the country. We already played a clip tonight from Jen Kiggins, who's running in a closely watched race down in Virginia. What do you think this debate and the current state of the race means for the battle to expand the GOP majority in the House and possibly flip the Senate?
Well, I think, first off, the House is going to be a very close affair one way or the other. I would rather be Republicans than Democrats. I mean, pardon me, Matt, the candidate fundraising, the candidate recruitment, rather, out of the Republican Congressional Committee has just been very stellar. And Speaker Johnson and Chairman Hudson have done a tremendous job with the fundraising. So the blocking and the tackling and the dotting the I's and crossing the T's, I think we're doing a better job of that. But looking at it from a more 30,000-foot perspective, I don't know in what world anything that happened this past week helps Democrats. Biden, as of right now, is their standard bearer. The only way this week might have helped Democrats running for the Senate or for the House is if it forces Biden to get out of the race. But, barring them replacing him with Michelle Obama, who, whether listeners want to agree or not, is very widely favored in a lot of polls by an accurate cross sample of American voters. Unless it's her, there are other people who I think would be hard pressed to beat Trump. And she has said multiple times that she doesn't want to do it. So I'm not sure where that leaves them. This whole Biden getting out thing, it may not be the present to them that they think it is, because Kamala Harris is even less liked than he is.
And I've rarely found I've rarely found myself in a position to agree with Jen Psaki, but we played the clip of her earlier tonight arguing with that mouth breather Bill Kristol over on MSNBC about whether or not they can replace him at the convention. And I thought Psaki was right. She said even if he wants to go, easier said than done. The Democrat Party is very divided. Most Democrats, and I think you're alluding to this, do not think Kamala Harris is a stronger option. I've seen a number of polls over the past several months where she actually runs much worse than Joe Biden in a head-to-head with Donald Trump. So what are Democrats to do? If you attempt to run her, you may do worse. If you attempt to bypass her, then you've shoved aside the first female non-white vice president that's ever served in this country. It's a hornet's nest for them unless they get a field clear. If Oprah or Michelle Obama change their mind and they're interested, they might find a way to salvage this. But that's what they would need. And then beyond that, Tom, I know you're someone that's had to deal with ballot access issues across the country. You've had to get candidates' petitions in. You've dealt with the lawyers. I've done some perusing of some of these battleground states' laws. It's not even clear whether or not they'd be able to get another candidate on the ballot in places like Nevada and Wisconsin. They have rules that are much more complicated than they are back home in New Jersey, in our home state, where Democrats can snap their fingers and make anything happen if they need to.
I'm sure that there's a lot of election lawyers on both sides who are going to make a lot of money off of this election, because
100%.
You're right. It is a very gray area in a lot of places. It's not just like you snap your fingers or make a phone call to the Secretary of State and wham bam, it's fixed. And I'll tell you what, that problem is especially compounded this day and age with the advent of early voting in so many of these places. I mean, It used to be that ballots wouldn't go to print when we all voted on Election Day, everywhere without exception. Ballots wouldn't get printed until the middle of October. Now, depending on how early the voting starts in some of these places, ballots go to print around Labor Day, which is just a mere week or two after the convention in Chicago. And speaking of Chicago, if this does come to pass and he does get out, if you thought that Chicago DNC convention in 1968 was bad, with the protesters getting beaten by the police in Grant Park, and we all remember those images, I'm sure, at the height of the Vietnam War and assassinations and civil rights riots. I think that the civil unrest that you could see at Chicago 2024 could put Chicago 1968 to shame.
Look, again,
I hope I'm wrong. I was going
to say, you and I were both unapologetic conservative Republicans. We obviously want conservative Republicans to win. This stuff would help them win, but you're right. I don't want it. I don't want to see my country go through this stuff. But there's no one to blame but Joe Biden and his Democrats, because they're the ones that have set the stage for this nonsense. I know not close to where you used to call home, or not far away, I should say, from where you used to call home in Middletown over the weekend, where Joe Biden went and had a fundraiser with Phil Murphy. You had pro-Palestinian, really, let's call them what they are, they're anti-Israeli protesters out there shouting all manner of garbage. This is the coalition now. This is the coalition now. But back to the other point, Tom, before we let you go, I have it right here. Heritage actually went and did a study. There's 3 swing states, Georgia, Nevada, and Wisconsin, which may not allow a ballot replacement. So it's potentially Joe Biden, if they ended up switching him out and come Labor Day, they're running Kamala or Newsom or someone else. Can you imagine with the state of the math already for them in the Electoral College, if they have to run a write-in campaign in Georgia, Nevada, and Wisconsin?
They wouldn't win the write-in campaign. It's just too difficult to execute. And they'd have to run the table. They could still win, but they would have to win almost all of the remaining battleground states. They would have to win Pennsylvania. They would have to win Michigan. And I think they would probably have to win Arizona, too, where, Biden right now trails by 6 or 8 points. So it's not going to be a walk in the park for them if they want to go this route. But one other thing I wanted to say, shame on the media, as usual. Not the great WPHT, of course, but I'm talking about the Associated Press, the NPR, these legacy media types. As recently as 2 weeks ago, Matt, they ran a series of articles trying to gaslight the American public into thinking that all of these videos that show Joe Biden with verbal stumbles or literal stumbles off the stage, or not knowing where he's going, or trying to shake people's hands who aren't there. They tried saying that those were manipulated by right-wing media and Republican political operatives. That's something out of like George Orwell, 1984. That was so brazen a lie. But as recently as 2 weeks ago, they tried telling us that this was a fabrication, that it was a figment of the imagination, and that we were the ones creating this lie. I mean, if that hasn't convinced you that you can't believe what you're told anymore, I don't know what else will.
I don't know what possible additional evidence we can give anybody. You have what you need to make the right decision, folks. You need to make it. It's right in front of you with about 120 days less to go before we decide which path our country's going to take. Tom Szymanski is one of the people that is going to play a key role in that fight. As I said, he is a national Republican political consultant working on some major races, the kind of races that are going to decide whether or not Speaker Johnson keeps his gavel or whether or not the House heads in a very different, darker direction. As if it couldn't get worse on Capitol Hill, believe me, it can, and I know Tom agrees. Tom, where do we keep up with you online?
Oh, you can follow me on Twitter anytime. It's at Tom Szymanski. That's TOMSZYMANSKI. Good Polish last name with a bunch of consonants smushed together.
As it should be, right? You're part of that grand melting pot, my friend. We appreciate you joining us. We're going to allow you to get off the air now and recuperate from your legitimate cold, not the fake one you use to explain a bad debate performance. And we'll bring you back on here soon once you've recovered.
That's very merciful of you. But nevertheless, cold or no, always a pleasure to join the Matt Rooney Show and the great WPHT.
Thank you, buddy. Be well. Give Alarm my best. That's Tom Szymanski, everyone. Quick break. Back to round out the second hour in a moment. Don't go anywhere.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online at hims.com/joy. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation to determine the ED medication that's best for you. Discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and a range of treatment options, including trusted generic alternatives to the name brands, at up to 95% off. ED is personal, and at Hims, so is treating it. Just go to hims.com/joy and get connected to a licensed medical provider online for free, with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, hims.com/joy. That's hims.com/joy for your free online visit. hims.com/joy.
The following is a paid commercial message.
Using credit cards could soon become a hassle in Pennsylvania. Some in the legislature are considering a multi-million-dollar giveaway to corporate megastores and may force you to pay for parts of your purchase in cash, while small businesses will have to manage an accounting nightmare. This mandate could also expose information about the private purchases you make. Prevent credit card chaos at guardyourcard.com/Pennsylvania. Paid for by the Electronic Payments Coalition.
Angie's List is now Angie, and we've heard a lot of theories about why.
I thought it was an eco move. Fewer words, less paper.
No, it was so you could say it faster.
No, it's to be more iconic.
Must be a tech thing.
But those aren't quite right. It's because now you can compare upfront prices, book a service instantly, and even get your project handled from start to finish.
Sounds easy.
It is, and it makes us so much more than just a list. Get started at Angie.com. That's ANGI, or download the app today.
This is Len Lundy of Lundy Law. Every year, millions are hurt in car accidents. The numbers are overwhelming. But if you're injured in an accident, don't feel overwhelmed. Call Lundy Law. We remove the stress and get you the maximum compensation you deserve. We hope we never meet because of an accident. But if we do, we're here for you. Remember our name, Lundy Law. Your injury lawyers. Call 1-800-LUNDY-LAW or visit LundyLaw.com.
The following is a paid commercial message.
Using credit cards could soon become a hassle in Pennsylvania. Some in the legislature are considering a multi-million-dollar giveaway to corporate megastores and may force you to pay for parts of your purchase in cash, while small businesses will have to manage an accounting nightmare. This mandate could also expose information about the private purchases you make. Prevent credit card chaos at guardyourcard.com/Pennsylvania. Paid for by the Electronic Payments Coalition.
Hey, Joe DeCamera here. Isn't it time to invest in yourself? Well, how about this? Start a PI Dental Center with decades of experience in complex dental treatment, and I've been a patient of PI Dental for 20 years. Dr. Glenn Wolfinger and Dr. Robert Slough, they're board-certified prosthodontists. They specialize in the restoration and replacement of teeth, and PI Dental Center are the originators of the Teeth in a Day. It's a revolutionary treatment that delivers fixed teeth and implants placed for a dramatic transformation in a mere one day. So visit PIDentalCenter.com. That's PIDentalCenter.com to request your new patient evaluation.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online at hims.com/joy. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation to determine the ED medication that's best for you. Discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and a range of treatment options, including trusted generic alternatives to the name brands, at up to 95% off. ED is personal, and at Hims, so is treating it. Just go to hims.com/joy and get connected to a licensed medical provider online for free, with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, hims.com/joy. That's hims.com/joy for your free online visit. hims.com/joy.
Talk Radio 1210, WPHT. Free speech lives here.
Not enough time to go into it right now. That's a theme on this program every week. Not enough time to get as deep as I'd like to. There are multiple states where if they try to switch out Joe Biden for another guy or gal, sorry to be reinforcing the gender binary here for our Democrat listeners, but if they try to switch him out, they may have to run write-in campaigns in several states. Yeah, Ohio, Nevada, Wisconsin, states that matter. Ohio's not as much a swing state anymore, but Joe Biden can't go into the general election. Democrats, regardless of who they run, can't go into the general election with that many states off the board. It's math. I know how our friends on the left feel about math. They don't like the limitations it places on them in their spending. But reality is reality. 855-839-1210 is the number. 2 hours gone. 1 hour still left to go. Thank you, God, because we have so much fun here on the Matt Rooney Show. Dan Cerrucci and much more lie ahead on the other end of the break. See you in just a few.
When you need to know, depend on KYW News Radio 103.9 FM.
PETA visits Reading Terminal Market to bring awareness to their Hell on Wheels pig truck. A bill is passed in the Pennsylvania Senate protecting investments with Israel. And Penn Museum's historic Stoner Courtyard will host garden jams in July for 4 consecutive weeks.
Get the latest anytime on KYW News Radio. Now on Crystal Clear 103.9 FM.
You've never needed us more.
Hi, this is Dom Giordano for my friend, dentist and board-certified prosthodontist Dr. Robert Bentz and the Bentz Dental Group. His state-of-the-art facility makes your dentistry as easy as can be. Recently, they had a permanent tooth put in. And you know how it is. In the past, you bite down, it's too high. It's always too high. The back and forth getting it just right. Well, not this time. With Dr. Bentz, it fit perfectly the first time. Call the Bentz Dental Group now, 610-272-6949. Visit BentzDentalGroup.com, 610-272-6949.
Hi, this is Joe Mederchik, PNC Bank Regional President. As a Main Street bank, PNC strives to put our clients and the communities we serve at the center of everything we do. Our local leadership teams provide the knowledge needed to be able to deliver effective strategic solutions tailored for your business. We're proud to be part of the Philadelphia, Delaware, and Southern New Jersey communities. See how we can make a difference for your business at pnc.com/CIB. The PNC Financial Services Group, Inc., all rights reserved.
Topricin Pain Relief Cream can help you live a pain-free life. If you suffer aches and pains of any kind, including arthritis, back, neck, shoulder, and joint pain, please try patented Topricin Pain Relief Cream. Topricin is made from good things like arnica, echinacea, and calendula. Guaranteed Topricin is available at fine pharmacies and natural markets throughout Greater Philadelphia and online at Amazon and Topricin.com. Get Topricin today. Topricin, rub it in. Use only as directed.
If you're talking, they will hear you every single time.
Oh, we're getting killed.
Yeah, well, Kyle's not here.
How come?
Kicked off the team. Didn't Tim tell you? Kyle and some other kids got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah. 0 tolerance. He's out for the season.
Come on, it's a first offense, right?
That we know of. But why should that matter? He knew not to drink. I've made it clear to Matt, that's what we expect from him. What have you said to Tim?
Nothing really. You know, a lot of kids try it at this age, so...
Yeah, well, a lot of kids don't try it too. I'm not saying that Matt's gonna be this perfect kid, but if I don't tell him what we expect and why he shouldn't drink, how's he gonna know?
You think kids that age really listen?
They never admit it, Bill, but they hear more than you think.
Talk. They hear you. For more information about talking with kids about underage drinking, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
I'm Michael Toscano.
Joe Biden is not going to take himself out of this race, nor should he.
Maryland's Governor Wes Moore on CBS's Face the Nation as top Democrats try to rally around President Biden. He spent the day at Camp David with family members, as we hear from CBS News Chief White House correspondent Nancy Cordes.
Top Biden officials spent the weekend holding what they described as honest conversations with Democratic lawmakers and donors. One told me, "We have had conversations about their concerns. We don't dismiss them, but we still believe Biden is the best position to beat Trump."
The Supreme Court is set to release what's expected to be a landmark ruling tomorrow on former President Donald Trump's claim that he has legal immunity for his time in the White House. CBS's Skylar Henry explains the immediate political stakes.
How the justices respond could determine not only whether the criminal charges against the former president can stick, but also whether a trial against him could happen before the general election. If it came to that, special counsel Jack Smith could try to launch a trial in September or October at the earliest, weeks before voters head to the polls.
Hurricane Beryl is closing in on the southeastern Caribbean after strengthening into an extremely dangerous Category 4 storm. CBS meteorologist David Parkinson is tracking the path.
The landfall may occur in one of those islands on Monday morning, and then the storm moves west into the Caribbean. The storm will begin to weaken, so Beryl will not stay a Category 4 for the next several days, but it will be at that intensity through Monday.
Residents have been told to take shelter. The Justice Department is offering Boeing a plea deal on fraud charges it leveled just a week ago. This is in relation to the deadly crashes of two 737 MAX jets. CBS's Rob Laguerre has some of the details.
The agreement, which was presented to Boeing on Sunday, would have the company plead guilty to a conspiracy charge that it was first brought against it in 2021. In exchange, Boeing would pay a fine and enter a 3-year probationary period.
French voters have propelled the far-right national rally led by Marine Le Pen to a strong lead in first-round legislative elections called by French President Macron. CBS News correspondent Elaine Cobb has more from Paris.
Voter turnout for this first round was the highest it's been since the mid-80s. Many people said they wanted to block the far-right from taking power. Others said they just wanted a change for Macron's government. The second final round takes place next Sunday. Le Pen called on voters to give her party a clear majority so it can form the next government. Macron called for a broad alliance to stop that happening.
This is CBS News.
Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get the parts and service you need fast from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Sorry. WPHT, WPHT-HD, WOGL HD3 Philadelphia. From the Cherry Hill Volvo Studios, where relationships matter. Always live on the free Odyssey app. Live and local with Matt Rooney. On Talk Radio 1210, WPHT.
Welcome back, Patriots. Happy 4th of July week. Independence Day is upon us. And a new day, arguably, in the race for the presidency in 2024. This is the Biden collapse edition of the Matt Rooney Show here on 1210 WPHT, chronicling everything that happened in the week gone by, including Joe Biden's horrendous debate performance, in order to prepare you for the week that lies ahead. We do it better here than any other radio show in the country. Subcategory of the weekend. I stand by that, Andrew. He's nodding his head vigorously.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yes, it's what we're proud of.
Yeah, very proud.
855-839-1210. Almost as proud as we are of this fine country. And we're going to celebrate this country's birthday this week. Can I make a shameless plug for a second? It's my show, so who's going to stop me?
I don't know why you're asking.
Right? Yeah, I don't know why I am asking. By the way, it's always better to beg for forgiveness than ask for permission.
Correct. However, when your name is the one that's on the show title.
Yes. Only Stalker and the FCC can stop me.
Right.
Very limited list of people.
In that order.
Exactly in that order. That's how it would come down. So head over to my website if you get a chance this week, SaveJersey.com. Regular listeners know I've been now running Save Jersey for, I think, over 17 years. It's New Jersey's #1 political news website, commentary website on the right side of the aisle. Very proud of it. We have a great following over there. I do something a little different this week. Now through Independence Day, every day, I write about one of the 5 signatories to the Declaration of Independence from New Jersey. There were 5 from Jersey, more from Pennsylvania, obviously, but it's not Save Pennsylvania. I can only save one state at a time. Only one man can only do so much. But today is Abraham Clark. So I'll retweet it after the show, but definitely go over there and check it out if you have the time. Something I like to focus on every year, this time of year, is how these founding fathers, the framing generation, They weren't just a bunch of privileged white guys, as the left likes to present them, who got together in their powdered wigs and their I think they were knickers back then, right? I think that's what they called those pants.
Yeah, it's like imagine like the old school like thigh-high baseball pants.
Yes,
That's basically what.
That's what they wore.
Yeah.
And devised a document in order to help them protect their property. That is such a superficial and therefore inaccurate interpretation of what the American Revolution is. These guys were adventurers, entrepreneurs, deep thinkers, passionate men of profound belief who got together and did one of the riskiest things you could possibly ever do in a non-free country. They put their name on a document. So it was easy to incriminate all of them, right? Because they incriminated themselves.
There's literally written proof, right?
There's written proof and said, we are no longer going to follow what Parliament and King George want us to do. And they essentially signed their own death warrant. That's what they did. And luckily for us, they ended up succeeding. So most of them made it through the revolution, but they suffered deeply. I talk about this all the time. The concept of privilege is advanced by the left is obnoxious for a bunch of reasons, but I like to turn it on its head and remind my fellow conservatives, look, don't ignore the fact that you are privileged. You're just not privileged for the reason the left says you are. You're not privileged because you're white, right? You're privileged because you were born in a culture and a country that has given you opportunity that human beings in any other space, in any other time, in the annals of world history could only dream to have those same opportunities. So it's not whether or not you have privilege. Debating that is what these immature lefties on college campuses like to do. And it's a fruitless endeavor. What we should be talking about is, how do you deal with your privilege? Do you try to deny access to those same opportunities to other Americans with the left's ideas? Big government, stifling taxes, poisoning the well of free speech so we can't have a discussion? Or do you expand opportunity and give them access to the same privileges that the rest of us have had and that have enabled the success and growth and prosperity and advance of freedom in this country over the course of the past 200 plus odd years? It's not a hard choice as far as I'm concerned, but for some on the left, it's complicated. And Abraham Clark, who's the first signatory from New Jersey that I wrote about today, this is another guy for which the American Revolution was not a fairy tale. He had 2 children of his 10. Now think about that for a second, Andrew, my fellow father. 10 children. Can you imagine?
Times sure have changed, haven't they?
They sure have, my friend.
It's not, well, I can't remember. What was that show on TLC? It's like the family that had like the 22 kids or something like
Duggars,
something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
It ain't like that anymore.
It ain't like that, right? But back then, I guess when people were living in this kind of agrarian society, it actually was an advantage to have more kids because that's more kids that could do farm work. But 2 of the 10 Clark children joined the Continental Army. His children were captured and they were tortured. Not one son, 2 sons during the course of the Revolution. And Abraham Clark did what I think has to be the hardest thing that you could ever be asked to do as a parent, far and away. They came to him and they said, you recant signing the Declaration of Independence, we'll free your kids. And he said no. Now, I don't think it's because he didn't love his children, right? It's that he recognized, as all great patriots do, that their highest duty is to their God and to their country. That's the quality of the men. Yes, I'm sorry if I'm triggering you. They were men, even though there were fantastic female patriots during the Revolution, right? That's the quality of the men that built this country. And so that's what I like to celebrate every year, and it's what I like to remember on this week. So head over to SaveJersey.com if you want to check out the New Jersey Founding Father story, which I'll be writing about now through Independence Day. I also try to watch some of my favorite Independence Week movies if I can fit them in. Now, being a father and a professional and having a job and everything, Andrew knows where I'm coming from here because he's in the same boat. Don't have as much time to watch movies as possible. But let's just run through some right now. The Patriot with Mel Gibson.
Yep. Great movie. Horribly historically accurate.
Horribly historically inaccurate, but it's fun.
It's fun to watch, but it is, if you're a historian or a history buff, It is really bad. It is brutal to watch.
It's PP. It's patriot porn.
Yep.
Just if you want to feel good about your country and watch a fun movie.
I've never heard that term before.
The battle of Cowpens when he grabs the flag from the fleeing member of the Continental Army and then takes it over the hill, and it's all
get your blood flowing.
Oh, it's so good.
But that is not how the Battle of Cowpens actually was.
It is not how the Battle of Cowpens.
The Battle of Cowpens was a skirmish.
Yes.
And it was not that huge scale, but, Hollywood is Hollywood. So.
Hollywood is Hollywood, but, Cornwallis, very interesting figure.
Yeah.
He was a real-life figure. Again, the involvement was a little different.
The American generals that are mentioned, Horatio Gates is a real figure.
Yes. Well, the British cavalry commander, Tarleton.
He was based on a real-life cavalry officer in the British Army.
Who was also kind of a jerk.
Yeah, a little bit of a tyrant.
Yeah. So there is some truth in there.
Yeah, and Mel Gibson's character, Benjamin Martin, was based off of a actual American colonel in the war named Daniel Morgan.
Two other movies that I enjoy watching when I get the chance. A little bit of a deeper dive. Okay. Not always the biggest Turner production fan. It's another one that gets a little sappy and departs from history. But Gettysburg.
Okay.
The 1990s.
The 6 hour.
6 hour.
6 hours of.
Which is why I get to it like every few years.
You have to watch it in like a mini-series way.
You do, which is how it was originally aired.
Correct.
By Ted Turner.
Yeah.
But it's very good. It's got some great actors, some classic actors.
Really good. And the beauty of that movie, or miniseries, whatever you want to call it, the people who play the soldiers, they're all. It's basically a gigantic passion project, because how many times do you see Civil War reenactors at Gettysburg? Yes. That's literally all Civil War people. They brought their own guns, their own uniforms, their own cannons, their own horses. Like it was the probably, if not the biggest passion project in at least that I've seen and witnessed.
You're giving me an idea here. The station is always doing trips for the shows where you take your listeners
Gettysburg,
to go to
Pennsylvania.
Right, like we're always going to baseball games and stuff, which is great. Like Zioli took a bunch of people down to D.C.
Right.
when the Phillies were playing the Nationals last year. We should have a Matt Rooney show trip to Gettysburg, a day trip.
And it's crazy to think tomorrow's July 1st. The Battle of Gettysburg was fought from July 1st to the 3rd.
Exactly. And everyone on both sides, the Confederates and the Union, recognized at the time the irony that the Union, the fate of the Union was decided on the eve of the anniversary of the 4th of July, right?
It's crazy.
Yeah, because, I mean, in that battle, Gettysburg, the reason that battle was so significant, that was the high watermark of the Confederacy. Had Lee been successful on any of those days, and he almost was.
On several occasions.
He almost broke through the first and the second day. Had he been successful, he would have been able to swing around, he'd go down and invade Washington, D.C., and the plan was to place a letter on Lincoln's desk with terms for surrender, but specifically the dissolution of the Union and Southern independence.
Right.
So it's one of those moments in American history where we could have a very different history today.
Yeah.
Had those boys in blue not been successful. And then my third movie, this is the campiest one, and we'll ask Dan Cerrucci about this when he comes on, our guest this hour, because he's Mr. Theater. 1776, the musical, starring Mr. Feeney from Boy Meets World as John Adams. Sentimental favorite.
You talk about historically accurate. That is the epiphany.
It's not. These are historically fun movies.
Sure,
they are historically fun movies.
Can I throw an honorable mention
Absolutely.
in there? What you talk about John Adams.
Yeah.
The John Adams HBO series with Paul Giamatti.
Oh yeah. The actor who the actor in that, not to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
He played Ben Franklin in that series.
Correct.
He also played Cornwallis. In The Patriot. He recently passed away.
What?
Yeah, rest in peace.
Oh.
I forget his name.
I don't know his name either.
But he's one of those character actors where, God forgive us, you never remember his name, but he's in a lot of stuff.
He's in a lot of stuff, and he's such a good actor. You know who else he played? He played one of the Nazi generals in Valkyrie with Tom Cruise.
He did. You're right.
And did a phenomenal. He's a great actor. Like you can just tell he's like.
It's Tom something.
Not to compare him.
Tom Wilkinson.
Yeah.
Tom Wilkinson passed away recently.
Like you think of like great Shakespearean trained actors. You think of Patrick Stewart, you think of Ian McKellen, and like all these big names and stuff. In my opinion, he's right up there with those guys.
He died back in December. I just reconfirmed it. Yeah.
He just doesn't get the recognition that he deserves.
No.
Patrick Stewart did Star Trek and like all those, like the X-Men, and Ian McKellen did Lord of the Rings, like bigger movies.
Right.
But this dude was right up there as far as skill, competency, ability to throw himself and get involved in character.
Which is why I like the Gettysburg movie, because even though there's some historical inaccuracies, I love the passion of the reenactors, and you've got some very heavyweight actors in that movie.
Right.
Martin Sheen's actually the least of them, although I think he's not a favorite of conservatives, but he does a particularly good job in Gettysburg.
Agreed.
So I don't know if I have time to get to any of these this week. What I think is going to happen is I'm going to be down the shore at some point, and like the kids will be asleep, and I'm going to say to my wife, because she'll be reading her Kindle, I'll be like, do you mind if I watch Gettysburg? And she'll say something like, fine.
If you had to pick one, because like you said, we're, as dads with kids, and time is of the essence. If you had to pick one of those, which one would you want to watch? And please don't say 1776.
Well, here's the problem. 1776 is the easiest because it's the shortest. It's the most concise. What I could do is watch just the first half of Gettysburg.
Okay.
So I get the Battle of the 20th Maine.
Little round top. Little round top.
Yes, because
my gosh.
The charge, when they were out of ammunition.
Yep.
Man, and this is a great Pennsylvania story, right? As
right. I mean, we're here.
In the cradle of liberty.
Right. The Liberty Bell is just a few blocks away from here.
It is. 855-839-1210 is the number here at Philadelphia's true free speech station. We still honor the spirit of the revolution every single day around here. Over on YouTube, youtube.com/@1210WPHT. Navy Prepper is in the chat, says Cowpens was significant. We have a ship of the line named for the battle. Yes, it's just another sad indictment, too, of how, American children, they can tell you all about TikTok. They should know the ins and outs of their history and how we came to be, but they don't. It's not something that's emphasized in this country. Other countries, quite the opposite. Here in this one, they don't. And how can you revere something? How can you preserve something if you don't know how it came to be? And worse still, if you have a wokeified, warped version of how your country came into being.
Yeah.
That's the challenge in 2024, but we're up for it here on the Matt Rooney Show. Quick break. Back with Dan Cerrucci in just a second.
Have you questioned your doctor about symptoms like low energy, digestive issues, brain fog, joint pain, just not feeling right, just something is off, and you're only left settling for unanswered questions, or worse, being told it's just because you're getting older? You don't have to settle for unanswered questions any longer. With Younger Me MD's exclusive VIP membership program, aging doesn't have to make you feel older. Their proven 3-step process and functional medicine approach helps you discover the underlying causes of your issues. As a member, you get access to high-level personalized treatment plans, as well as discounts on treatments and supplements. If you're ready to live the life you deserve, it's time to learn about Younger Me MD's VIP membership program. Call 445-266-4024. 445-266-4024. That's 445-266-4024. And schedule your consultation with Younger Me MD.
Hi, this is Dom Giordano. We have some exciting news. Rescue Natural Supplements is having a sale of epic proportions in honor of Independence Day. Now through July 4th, use the code FREEDOM to snag 45% off 4 or more of your favorite products. You can mix and match single bottles, boost your heart health, strengthen immunity, lift energy levels, or try an all-natural sleep aid. To order, call 800-26-ALIVE, 800-262-5483, speak to a rescue product consultant, or shop online at res-q.com, res-q.com. It's never too late or too early to fortify your body and health. Rescue's Independence Day sale ends Thursday, July 4th, so don't miss out. Remember, shop res-q.com. Use that code FREEDOM. Again, the code is FREEDOM for 45% off 4 or more single bottles. Do it today.
Pastor Brad Lacey here, First Baptist Church, Conshohocken. Join us Saturdays for the great message and be blessed. 5 a.m. right here on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT.
Pennsylvania deer hunters, resident antlerless licenses go on sale June 24th for Wildlife Management Units 1B, 2G, and 3A on a first-come, first-served basis until sold out. Then beginning June 27th, resident antlerless licenses for all remaining WMUs go on sale and are guaranteed for 11 days through July 7th. Purchase your license at huntfish.pa.gov or any in-store issuing agent. Visit pgc.pa.gov to learn more. And thank you for being a Pennsylvania hunter.
Paid for by the Pennsylvania Game Commission.
The following is a paid commercial message.
Using credit cards could soon become a hassle in Pennsylvania. Some in the legislature are considering a multi-million-dollar giveaway to corporate megastores and may force you to pay for parts of your purchase in cash, while small businesses will have to manage an accounting nightmare. This mandate could also expose information about the private purchases you make. Prevent credit card chaos at guardyourcard.com/Pennsylvania. Paid for by the Electronic Payments Coalition.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-575-6481. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS.
Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start.
Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems.
We have over 1,000 five-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau.
You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com
or call 800-575-6481. That's 800-575-6481.
Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
Calling on Blackwood to follow 1210 WPHT on the free Odyssey app. Download it now.
If tomorrow all the things were gone, I'd work for all my life. And I had to start again with just my children and my wife.
Andrew Torres, did I put you in a patriotic
Thank
mood?
my lucky stars.
It's possible.
To be living here today. 'Cause the flag still stands for freedom. And they can't take
This is Trump's favorite song. All of his rallies.
I don't blame him.
I'm proud to be an American where at least I know
Listen to
I'm
this.
free. And I won't
At the Wildwood
forget
rally,
the men who died, who
you had
gave
thousands of
their
people
lives
singing
for
this.
me, and I gladly
It was really
stand
something.
next to
With the
you, and they think
beach
we're still today.
ambiance and the gulls and the carnival rides in the background.
America.
At the pier. Flags whipping, hanging from cranes. Yeah, it was America overload. It was. I almost bled out red, white, and blue right there at the beach. It was a beautiful thing.
If I can share just real quick, I know we got a guest coming on, but the first time I heard that song, I didn't know who Lee Greenwood was. I never heard that song. Like I knew it. Like I was 7 years old. It was right after the September 11th attacks in New York, and I was watching the World Series because the 2001 World Series was between the Yankees and the Diamondbacks.
Yeah.
And so normally, under normal circumstances, everybody hates the Yankees, right? Because they win all the time. They have how many World Series, whatnot, blah,
But
blah,
the
blah.
Cowboys in the 90s.
Right, exactly. But because of the September 11th attacks, and everybody had their American flags out, and they say, we stand with New York, in 2001, everybody was a Yankees fan. And I distinctly remember it was Game 3, the first game of that World Series in New York. It was either Game 3 or Game 4. And normally what they do is they say, God bless America, during the 7th inning stretch. And it was one of the Irish tenors that used to do it. But for that particular game, during the 7th inning stretch, it was Lee Greenwood came out, and he sang God Bless the USA. I had never heard that song before. And as a 7-year-old red, white, and blue-blooded American, I bawled my eyes out because the emotion of everything. And at the time, I thought it was, looking back, I thought what a perfect, beautiful moment to hear that song for the first time during, New Yorkers and everybody watching and rallying together, and Lee Greenwood sang that song at Yankee Stadium. So
lots of stories
that was cool
in the aftermath of 9/11. And unfortunately, that's how life works, right? Like sometimes it takes tragedy to make some of us appreciate
my dad's
that
family.
Some of this stuff has deeper meaning.
My dad's family he grew up in the Bronx and lived in Queens. He's from New York, and my uncle lived in New York for an extremely long time. And, that kind of trickled down to me and my brother watching that and, just kind of being in awe and being emotional about the whole thing.
855-839-1210, folks, is the number here on the Matt Rooney Show. The pre-4th of July edition version of the Matt Rooney Show, production of the Matt Rooney Show, whatever you want to call it. Couple of quick little hits here before we get to our guests. I want to give a shout-out to the Post Millennial, one of my favorite websites. They included me in one of their post-debate roundups. This is the title of the story. You know one of those posts, Andrew, where they take a bunch of conservative commentators from social media and it's all one topic after a big event? So this was the Post-Millennial: elder abuse trends on X after Joe Biden's CNN debate performance. So, they've got Laura Loomer and they've got Matt Walsh, and then you're skimming through, and there's your old pal Matt Rooney. And my quote was, "Holy bleep." I bleeped myself there. Biden just had a complete brain malfunction on TV, said we beat Medicare. The infusions weren't enough to hide this embarrassment from the American people, wrote attorney and radio host Matt Rooney. So, of course, the one time you get picked up, it's always when you use some potty language, but that's fine. It's how I felt. That wasn't me trying to get attention. That was my reaction in the moment watching this thing. I said exactly that to my wife sitting next to me.
I'm sure you weren't the only one using that kind of language at the particular time.
Most of them were probably DNC and White House staffers, and they probably use much stronger language, which, by the way, I saw something else, because naturally Biden would be staffed by snowflakes. There was another post-debate tidbit out there from journalists. I think this was from Politico, that apparently a bunch of Biden staffers were so depressed they didn't go into work on Friday. They stayed home, probably in
poor things,
in their soy boy pajamas, texting each other all day. So thoughts and prayers, folks, for all of them. Two quick polls before we bring Dan Cerrucci on to kind of frame where things are at as we held into the first post-debate week. There is a poll from the pollster that was the most accurate in 2020. Okay, the most accurate pollster in 2020 has a survey out. They don't put surveys out super regularly. It's called Atlas Intel. They pretty much nailed it last time around. They have Trump up 5.2 points over Joe Biden nationally. Now remember, folks, as I tell you pretty much every week here, a Republican winning the popular vote is a big deal. It's only happened once since 1988. Once, 2004. So, and it wasn't 5 points that George W. Bush beat John Kerry by. So if Trump really were to win by that, I know we've got, 120 days until the election. That is historic. That word is not an overstatement. There's also another poll which bleeds into our second guest, who's also from New Jersey. There is a survey that I shared over on SaveJersey.com right before the weekend that has Donald Trump leading in the state of New Jersey by 1 point. Now, let me give you some context here. Once again, 1988, Tom Szymanski, when he was on the show earlier tonight, mentioned Michael Dukakis. The last time a Republican nominee for president carried the Great Garden State was in 1988 when George Bush Sr. beat Michael Dukakis. Hasn't happened since. Again, the closest a Republican came was in the aftermath, Andrew, of 9/11. I think in part because of how affected that state was by terrorism and their appreciation of George Bush's attempt, or at least how it was perceived at the time, to aggressively confront it. Bush came like 5-6 points short of winning New Jersey. Now, I don't know if Trump is really ahead by 1 point in my home state, given its history it's kind of hard to believe, but consider a couple things here. Jack Ciattarelli, who was the Republican nominee in 2001 running against Phil Murphy, only lost by 3 points. It was a close race. Also consider this poll is not completely isolated. There was another survey from another pollster, I want to say it was Emerson, from back in March, that had Joe Biden ahead of Donald Trump by only about 7 points, which, again, is really close for New Jersey. Joe Biden won by about twice that margin in 2020. So let's say this poll that has Biden down 1, Trump up 1 in New Jersey is off by 10 points. That's still evidence that something is happening out there. Things are getting weird. Things are getting interesting. If you're still sitting on the sidelines and you haven't got up the bench yet, I don't know what else I need to say to you. Maybe you need to hear from somebody else. Let's bring on just that somebody else. He is a frequent guest on the Matt Rooney Show, good friend of mine, one of the smartest analysts in politics in the commentator field, of which I am aware. He spends his weeks, when he's not globetrotting and making the rest of us feel bad because he's got a fantastic travel schedule and a wonderfully stamped passport. He's over at dancerucci.com, where he writes about not just politics, but also culture, entertainment, anything that he finds interesting. And when you're an intelligent person like Dan Cerrucci, there is much of interest to you. He's also a PR expert. He's worked not only for bar associations, but also formerly taught public relations at Penn State University. So when you're breaking down something like a debate and its aftermath, no better person to turn to. So without further ado, Dan Cerrucci, my dear Dan,
Hi.
welcome back to the program, my friend.
It's great to be back, Matt. It's great to be on, and I love all this talk about the 4th of July, which is probably my very, very favorite holiday because you don't have to do anything to prepare for it. You just put on a T-shirt, a pair of shorts, and flip-flops, and you go outside and cook a hamburger and a hot dog. You enjoy the day. Maybe you go to a parade. Haddonfield in South Jersey has one of the best parades. It's like Norman Rockwell just flowing down the street in this precious little town.
And you can stand outside of the Indian King Tavern, which is a Revolutionary War relic, right? It's a and I think it's currently undergoing some kind of restoration. But usually there's some reenactors out there, and they sometimes have a skirmish.
And then at night you go watch fireworks, and I mean it's just a wonderful, wonderful day. And on the 2nd of July, I will, as I always have at dancerucci.com, 101 Reasons to Love America. So look for that on the 2nd of July. Which, by the way, the 2nd of July. Do you know the significance of that date, Matt Rooney?
Well, the 2nd of July is the day that they actually adopted the Declaration. Andrew's nodding vigorously because he wants to make sure I get this right. He's like, don't mess this up.
Correct.
They did not promulgate the Declaration of Independence until July 4th.
Okay, you got it. Very few people know that, but I expected Matt Rooney to know it.
It was
Absolutely.
It was on the entrance exam to have a show on 1210. Stalker's only criterion that you have to master. Certainly don't have to be good looking, right, Andrew? He's giving me a stink face right now. He's got a high this new producer has a high opinion of himself. He may be talented, but I don't know. Now he looks hurt.
Well, if he has too high opinion of himself, I'm sure you'll take care of that, Matt.
Well, between me and Zioli, those are the two guys he has to deal with on a weekly basis.
Absolutely.
So. I mean,
the two of you are unbelievable together.
The therapy is what we're going to have to end up paying for at some point. So that debate, my friend, I mean, we've talked about it a lot tonight. It's really most of what I think America's talking about right now. It's rare that we come on a Matt Rooney show at the end of the week and so much airtime is monopolized by just one event. But I think this time around it's appropriate. It was a seismic turning point, possibly an inflection point in this 2024 contest. You tell me if you think I'm wrong.
No, definitely seismic. I knew about 5 minutes in that this was going downhill for Biden. I mean, it was It was evident almost from the minute he walked to the podium. And then he looked so gray and shallow, pallid, whatever the term is. I mean, I don't know who did his makeup, if he had any makeup. Then when they showed him from the back, it was like an old bald head. And then, you know, I don't know why Biden does this. He grows the hair longer on the back of his head, what little hair he has back there. He grows it longer. And it looked so weird for an old man. It looks like something from the 1800s or something. I don't know what the hell it is.
Well, I think it tells you something about his personality, right? It may play into this calculus of whether he ultimately hangs it up or stays in the race. He is a very vain man, even by the standards of the world of politics, where egos are, they're plentiful and immense. But he is someone that has an opinion of himself. And Democrats say this as much as Republicans do. And I think that's one of the Democrat concerns at the moment, because they don't think his ego is going to allow him to make the graceful exit that they're all praying and hoping. I don't know if Democrats pray much anymore, but if they do still believe in a higher power, I think they're calling in all their favors right now.
He's very vain and very insecure, a very resentful person. He's always had a chip on his shoulder. Okay, because I don't think he ever felt part of the elites, part of the establishment. And I think these are very important factors. They're shared also, of course, by Dr. Jill. And the doctor is definitely in the house. Okay, the doctor is definitely there, and she's playing an enormous role. And quite frankly, I do not think he's going to withdraw. They say that his family has been with him up in Camp David, and they're all telling him, no, you got to stay in, you got to stay in. And after all, there's a lot of power and a lot of money involved in this. And don't forget that Biden has modeled himself after FDR. So he doesn't want to be a quitter. I mean, he doesn't want to be a quitter like LBJ or Richard Nixon, and he doesn't want to be a loser like Jimmy Carter, you know, or George H.W. Bush. So Biden is a street fighter. He's a Scranton brawler. And they're going to do, I think, whatever they have to do. I don't know what they're going to have to inject him with to keep him in the race. And, you know, the Democrats, they know how to engage in hocus pocus.
I don't know what else they can do except maybe try to move the next debate to noon, right? Because we're being told that he's only really effective between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. He's that partner at the law firm that's getting ready to retire, golfs with the judge, brings in the business, makes the rain, but doesn't actually practice anymore, which, you know, is fine in a number of different professions. You can maybe even be a senator and get away with that, but you can't answer that urgent phone call from your national security advisor from a foreign head of state at 3 o'clock in the morning in Joe Biden's condition. You mentioned FDR and his desire to pattern himself on FDR from the measure of legislative accomplishment. The similarities to FDR are now more than we ever would have imagined, right? You know, including the media's complicity in hiding the level of Joe Biden's decline here. So,
yes, FDR toward the end, absolutely. I mean, FDR toward the end. I mean, the doctors knew that he was feeling that he was not going to make it. The way he got elected in that fourth term, I mean, it was really a total sleight of hand. I mean,
most Americans didn't know that he was in a wheelchair.
That's correct at that time. But you know what, Matt? We say in public relations, and we also have this rule in show business, and both public relations and show business they're sort of related. They're close cousins of one another. You can pull off the illusion if you retain two things as you get older and you get more worn down, and you know, life catches up with you. If you retain two things, if you retain your voice and your posture, if you can stand erect and you can look like you have good posture, and you don't have an old person's voice. You're not hoarse. You're not halting. Well, he had neither the other night. He had neither the voice nor the posture. He was stooped over at various times, and of course his voice was just, really, really sad to experience.
There was nothing pleasant about watching it, even though, and we've said this a couple times tonight in the program, we obviously want him to lose because it's what's best for the country, but I still take no pleasure in watching someone debase themselves like that. And the question now becomes whether you want Joe Biden to win or not. We certainly don't here on this program. As a PR expert, Dan, what can he possibly do from here to try to rehabilitate his image? I know I've read some things, and there's lots of stuff getting written right now, and you don't know how valid the sources are, but there's some discussion from his staff allegedly about doubling down, trying to have more appearances during that part of the day when he's lucid, having more quote-unquote unscripted encounters with the nominee, I guess, to try to allay the fears of not only the media but also the donor class and his supporters. I wonder if it's too late, though, to make a second first impression for a lot of persuadable voters that kind of tuned into the race for the first time to watch that debate. Tens of millions of people watch that thing.
Well, this would be a challenge almost for a PR person that specializes in crisis, okay? Yeah. Because this is really a crisis. And one of the things we advise in a crisis, one of the first things we advise is tell the truth. Tell the truth. Well, obviously, this is a credibility crisis of enormous proportions because we weren't told the truth about the man and his situation and his condition. And the media have been complicit in it. And that's a national scandal. That should be a national scandal. In fact, it should be the biggest scandal of the election, the fact that the media participated in this cover-up. Basically was a cover-up. Now, it's a cover-up of very enormous proportions, Matt, because it affects our national security. If you're covering up that the president is incapable of doing his job, that impacts national security. You're putting our national security at risk. So what can they do? Obviously, they've got to keep him in controlled environments. He's got to go according to a script. As we saw in the debate, he has to be in front of a teleprompter. Even then, there's no assurance.
Right.
Whatever he's given to say has to be kept very simple. He can't be out there too long or exposed for too long a period of time. And his interactions with other people have to be limited and staged.
This is the guy.
Other than that,
I'm going to say
doing wonderful.
I was going to say this guy is the one that is going to answer the proverbial red phone, right? This is where we're at, folks. He's got the nuclear football. It's an absolute waking nightmare. Dan, we've talked so much about Biden, right. Trump. We got into a little bit of this with our mutual friend Tom Szymanski in the last hour. I don't think he's getting enough credit for having a strong performance because we're so focused on the contrast and Joe Biden's decline. But overall, I thought he did really well. One area I thought he was a little weak, and you tell me if you think I'm overstating it.
Yeah.
When we got into January 6th and the prosecutions and some of the allegations that had been lobbed at him concerning Stormy Daniels, I think that Biden got his ire up a little bit. And it wasn't that Trump did poorly, but I think his answers were a little less disciplined, a little less crisp and to the point, probably because the man is justifiably furious as to what they're putting him and his family through. But you tell me, how do you rate Donald Trump's performance?
I would give him a 7 on a scale of 1 to 10. I think he had a very good night. I do think that Biden landed a blow there, sort of, when he said, he went into the whole Stormy Daniels thing and all of that, and he said, you've got the morals of an alley cat, okay? And but the thing that was good was that Trump did not get too riled up. He answered it. He answered it as simply as he could. He said, "I didn't have that relationship with the porn star." He denied it, and he deflected it. One of the other good things that Trump did was, no matter what they asked him, and this is a big rule in public relations, no matter what you're asked, give your answer, the answer you want to give, and frame it so that you go back to the 2 or 3 key points you want to make. So no matter what you're asked, you go back, you pivot, and you go back to the 2 or 3 points you want to make. I thought he was very good on that. When he was asked about January 6th, one of the good things I think he did was he said, okay, let's talk about January 6th. On January 6th, the economy was strong, inflation was low, we weren't at war in Europe, we weren't at war in Israel, and he went down the list, and that was a great pivot and deflection.
I agree.
Whoever gave him that idea, or maybe it was his idea, I thought that was terrific. And I also thought he had a really nice moment near the end. I think it came in his closing remarks when he said, I didn't want to have to do this. I didn't need to do this. I didn't want to be here. I didn't want to have to be here tonight. But he was feeling, I wanted him to succeed, but he hasn't succeeded, and that's why I'm here. I thought that was a powerful moment, Matt.
Well, and you know what, too, Andrew? Would it be possible to play a clip here as we wind up with Dan? Because I think it underscores the part of Trump's debate performance that played so well for him. Dan, this is a clip from Trump's over-the-weekend rally in Virginia, where I think he continued that theme. This is cut number 9. Let's listen to this.
The question every voter should be asking themselves today is not whether Joe Biden can survive a 90-minute debate performance, but whether America can survive 4 more years of crooked Joe Biden in the White House.
I think that just kind of nails it again. His framing is so much better, Dan, than it was in 2020.
Line.
Yeah. Because
that
I think
was a fantastic line.
Because that's how I think Americans are analyzing this. To your point, I think the Stormy Daniels thing is an Achilles heel for him. Because even though this isn't my opinion or your opinion, there are plenty of squishy, independent, in the middle, not decided Americans who think that Joe Biden is more sympathetic or more likable than Donald Trump. So whenever Joe Biden can highlight the fact that he's allegedly more moral or likable, we know that's laughable. But
yes,
that plays to his favor.
The morals of an alley cat, Matt, would be a big issue and a pertinent issue and perhaps a resonating issue had it not been for one thing, Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky. And since then, it just doesn't really resonate the way it used to.
I say all the time, Dan, I'm turning 40 this year, God help me. And being the generation that I am, I remember being in Catholic school, sitting at a big lunch table, and one of my friends telling me what the president did with an intern. And that's how I first found out about that particular adult act. So that's the Democrat Party legacy. Dan Cerrucci, everyone. He is a paragon of virtue, unlike some of the men we're talking about. You can check him out over at dancerrucci.com. You can also find him over at X, at Dan Cerrucci. We also share his stuff all the time over at SaveJersey.com. My friend, happy 4th of July. We'll be chatting again soon.
It is same to you. Thank you.
One more break to play some ads and make some money, and then we'll be back to finish out this edition of the Matt Rooney Show in a moment.
This is Dr. Marianne Ritchie. Tune in to Your Radio Doctor every Saturday afternoon at 5 here on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT for the latest healthcare news and information, because your health is your wealth. That's Your Radio Doctor, Saturdays at 5.
You can host the best backyard barbecue when you find a professional on Angie to make your backyard the best around. Connect with skilled professionals to get all your home projects done well. Inside to outside, repairs to renovations. Get started on the Angie app or visit Angie.com today. You can do this when you Angie that.
Don't miss the Labor and Energy Show with J-Doc and Krause, brought to you by Advocacy United, this Saturday night at 6. Find out about the important issues that'll affect you. The Labor and Energy Show, Saturday night at 6 on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT.
Topricin Pain Relief Cream can help you live a pain-free life. If you suffer aches and pains of any kind, including arthritis, back, neck, shoulder, and joint pain, please try patented Topricin Pain Relief Cream. Topricin is made from good things like arnica, echinacea, and calendula. Guaranteed Topricin is available at fine pharmacies and natural markets throughout Greater Philadelphia and online at Amazon and Topricin.com. Get Topricin today. Topricin, rub it in. Use only as directed.
The IRS is the most powerful collection agency on earth. And if you owe back taxes, the news isn't good. The IRS has raised the interest rate it charges on unpaid taxes in recent years. This hits hard if you're behind on your taxes. Most people don't know it, but the IRS adds interest charges to your tax debts daily. If you owe the IRS today, you'll owe even more tomorrow. And it doesn't stop until you get right with the IRS. The good news is getting right can start with one phone call to Optima Tax Relief, America's #1 tax relief firm. Optima's tax professionals specialize in the Fresh Start Initiative, a powerful IRS program that can save you thousands if you qualify. A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, the experts at Optima have resolved over $1 billion in tax debt for their clients. Call now for a free consultation.
Call 800-354-2840. 800-354-2840. 800-354-2840.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Are you tired of dealing with those old, inefficient windows in your house? Well, maybe it's time to go Guida. How about that drafty, beat-up-looking entry door you've painted over more times than you can count? Well, go Guida. Need added protection from the elements with a new storm door? Go Guida. And what about that sliding patio door or garage door you've been meaning to replace? Go Guida. Whatever your home improvement needs are, I suggest you go Guida with the great people at Guida Door and Window. To help you get your project started, Guida is offering 20% off all windows and doors while allowing you to start your project with no money down and up to 3 full years to pay it off interest-free. That's right. Receive 20% instant savings with the luxury of paying off your project interest-free for up to 36 months. Restrictions apply, offers for a limited time, so what are you waiting for? It's time you finally go Guida. Call today to schedule a free in-home estimate at 1-877-GO-GUIDA or visit them at GoGuida.com. That's go, GUIDA.com.
Don't miss the Education Show with Dom Giordano every Sunday morning at 5:30. Find out how you can help your child or grandchild succeed. Sponsored by New Hope Academy.
The following is a paid commercial message.
Using credit cards could soon become a hassle in Pennsylvania. Some in the legislature are considering a multi-million-dollar giveaway to corporate megastores and may force you to pay for parts of your purchase in cash, while small businesses will have to manage an accounting nightmare. This mandate could also expose information about the private purchases you make. Prevent credit card chaos at guardyourcard.com/Pennsylvania. Paid for by the Electronic Payments Coalition.
The impact of a meal goes well beyond feeding our bodies, because when people don't have to worry about where their next meal is coming from, they can truly thrive, like Marta.
And now we'll hear from our class valedictorian, who with our hard work never ceases to amaze us. Please welcome Marta Moreno.
And Alex.
Hey, Alex, how did the interview go?
I did it! I got the job! I can't believe it!
I knew it. Let's meet up later to celebrate.
And Diego.
Mom! I got first place at the science fair with my volcano project.
That's amazing, sweetie. Congratulations.
Because when people are fed, futures are nourished, and everyone deserves to live a full life. Join the movement to end hunger at feedingamerica.org/actnow. feedingamerica.org/actnow. A public service announcement brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Follow Talk Radio 1210 on Instagram and Facebook at 1210 WPHT.
God bless America, land that I love, Andrew. I'm going to remain in the world of the political Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday this week. Thursday, I'm done. 4th of July, I'm taking the day off.
America.
Dan Cerrucci said it very well. It's a day to enjoy the simple majesty of this grandest of all nations. But between now and then, I'm going to continue to indulge on Democrat disaster porn. I didn't get to it tonight. My favorite reaction of all to this whole Biden debate thing is Jim Clyburn, notorious racist member of Congress, national co-chair for the Biden campaign, reaming Dana Bash over at CNN over the debate and suggesting that it was unfair. The Biden campaign set the rules for the debate. They wanted this debate. The timing, everything about it was what they wanted. And they're still not happy because their guy screwed it up. You cannot make this stuff up. You cannot make this stuff up. Yeah, it's crazy. But look, what we need to focus on here at the close, our country is going to turn 248 on Thursday. We're going to have our 250th birthday, either with Joe Biden or with Donald Trump. As we hit the quarter of a millennium mark, what kind of nation do we want to be and which direction do we want to be heading in? Let what happened to that debate last week and that point of meditation I just gave you be your guide as we head into America's birthday. With that being said, thank you to producer Andrew. Thank you to everybody that listened the old-fashioned way. Thank you to everybody that watched online. I'm out. Stay tuned for Walter Sterling. But until next time, stay safe, stay sane, and keep fighting for this greatest nation in God's creation. It's worth it.
When you need to know, depend on KYW News Radio 103.9 FM.
PETA visits Reading Terminal Market to bring awareness to their Hell on Wheels pig truck. A bill is passed in the Pennsylvania Senate protecting investments with Israel. And Penn Museum's historic Stoner Courtyard will host garden jams in July.